Take my hand and we'll go away to a different place. Float on air and we'll hide away. I'll be your escape. Look up and feel the shifting winds tossing us around again. Hold tight, I'm ready to begin and just levitate. No control over where we go, but we don't care to know. Ignorance is bliss. Your tears are gone, and they drifted back from where they came, and they will not be missed. Look up and feel the shifting winds tossing us around again. Hold tight, you're ready to begin and just levitate.
Alright guys, here we are. This is going to be game number 1 here in this best of 9 clan war between Rival and OE. First match is going to be a TDP here on Coda. It's a pretty standard map. Nah, not expecting anything too crazy out of these two players, but we'll see. Alright guys, here we are, game number 1. We're going to have a pause here from the OE player. I'll go ahead and do the introductions regardless. Up here in the top left side of the map known as Coda, playing for OE, is going to be Wild Style, the Teal Protoss. Down here in the bottom right, playing for Rival, the Red Terran player, it's going to be Trigger.
Game resumed.
Alright, I'm very curious to see what these players do here. Of course, I'm very used to Legacy of the Void, so that's pretty much all I play nowadays when it comes to StarCraft 2. So this really slow start is going to take a little bit of getting used to. So of course, both players coming up on 9 supply. There's been no workers sent out here by the Protoss. As you can see, all the probes are nice and tucked in the base, so there's going to be no proxies. Is that Myra? Actually just turn everything down because I feel like this is going to be too loud on stream. So, there we go. Turn it down. Cool. Trigger, going to put a supply depot here. This could be for a wall off. This could also be just strictly to catch any scouting probes that will be coming this direction. Not really entirely sure. Of course, in Legacy of the Void, the standard meta in TVP is to build that Rax wall, just to be sure adepts don't get into your base. because Adepts and Legacy of the Void are pretty scary. Got a gateway coming down here on 12 by Wild Style, and Trigger's going to send an SCV scout now across the map. He's going to go find out what his opponent is doing, and Trigger is going to go for that barracks wall. Looks like it was a 13-13 by the looks of things. Could have been a 12-13. Well, it is going to be a 12-13, I think, by the looks of things. Workers are going to meet each other here in the middle of the map. Wild Style now sending his probe out. Looks like he's just taking a more conservative path. He wants to make sure he knows where his probe is going. There is a single gas here from Wild Style as well as a gateway, so this is kind of like a standard stalker, like Mothership Core, Warp Gate, Expand, you know, all that fun stuff. This isn't anything too crazy going on. Of course, Trigger just queuing up all these orders just to make sure he can pay attention to the rest of his base and not really have to pay attention to his SCV, and just make sure it continues moving so it doesn't get, you know, killed off by a random probe. There goes the Cybernetics Core now from Wild Style. Trigger's wall is done, and he's just about to reach that 50 gas mark. There he goes, Reaper begins. This is real standard from Trigger, just Reaper expand most likely. And there's a Zealot coming out here from Wild Style. If anybody doesn't know what this is for, this is because sometimes Terrans will take their first initial scouting SCV, build an engineering bay right here on the Protoss as natural, and delay it a lot. The Zealot really helps with a lot of DPS to tear down that engineering bay very quickly, so we're going to have to see if Trigger decides to do that, but with a probe already here, I think it'll be a little bit tougher to do something like that. So this probe's just going to start tickling away at this SCV. Now this probe is also heading over to a precarious location, I suppose, for a proxy pylon, hiding inside these line of sight blockers here. Nexus does go down for Wild Style. There's still no command center for Trigger. Looks like it's just about to go down, as you can see. Bam, there it goes. Mothership Core opening here from Wild Style. The Reaper is on its way, though, so this Reaper is going to force some probes off of the line, which is a little bit of damage. It's not too much, but if he gets a probe, this Reaper has been totally worth it. No questions asked. He's got to pull that probe. 2 more shots, and that one probe will die, but however, the Mothership Core should push this away, so everything is good and fine. Of course, the whole purpose of this Reaper is just to get into the Protoss base and scout exactly what's going on. We got a Stalker coming out now for Wild Style. Will hopefully help him control his base. And of course, yes, as we can see, somebody pings out this proxy pylon way up here. This is most likely for a proxy Stargate, I'd imagine. Could also be for a proxy Twilight Council if he wants to play some sort of DTs. But Stargate seems to be the most logical option, I think, here. The Stalker, unfortunately, was not quite in position, and he actually might get a probe at this Reaper. That'd be a great pickoff, and is he going to get it? He should get it. Yes, and there it goes. So that's a really nice start here for Trigger with this one Reaper. He gets in, and he should see the lack of a third pylon. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he sees 2. He doesn't see a third. So he should be looking for proxies, or he should be at least saying, okay, there's got to be a proxy somewhere on the map, and it's going to be a Twilight Council. He's banking up a lot of gas of Wild Style, which is generally why I say it's a Stargate, because Stargates are 150 gas. This is giving him a lot of gas to work with. I'm imagining it's going to be DTs. Could be a blink play, though. It's just an extra gateway going down there, so it's nothing too big. This probe is going to be saved, thanks to that nice high ground ramp vision. Of course, the Reaper can't see enough of that ramp to get up and actually shoot the probe to kill it. So Trigger is actually headed in the direction of scouting this. If he just goes a little bit more this direction, there's going to be that Dark Shrine, so that's not really a surprise. And second gateway going down, well, third one, second on the production tab. Factory coming up now for Trigger, excuse me. Trigger does have his triple barracks production, so that's kind of what you want on one base, or 2 base generally. There's 3 racks. You can produce, you know, eventually you want to get a third command center. If you want to play a standard, more greedy style, you want to get a third command center and then your 2 barracks. However, you can get your 2 barracks first if you want to play a more aggressive style, so we'll have to see what Trigger decides to do. Of course, Trigger's Reaper is eventually going to die, and yeah, that's actually kind of an overcommittal, I think, by Wild Style, using that Photon Overcharge to kill it. It's kind of a waste, because if these DTs get scouted out somehow, like if Trigger just decides to play really, really safe with like an engineering bay and turrets at the front and everything, it'll end up being a waste, because if he pushes like right away, he could actually end up doing some damage. But with the DTs, generally, Terrans will say it's pretty hard to do damage versus a Protoss that's open DTs, strictly because you have to make sure if you push, if you don't want to build a Raven, if you push, you have to make sure you've saved up scans to do anything. Otherwise, those DTs will tear your army down very quickly. This SCV here will get taken out by the Stalker, most likely, you know? Or the Stalker's just going to be like, hey buddy, what's up? And the SCV's probably shivering in his suit right now, I'd imagine. First 3 DTs on their way now for Wildstyle, and Trigger does not have any turrets at all. There's none. So, does he have any scans? It doesn't look like he has any scans. I don't believe that's enough energy. So he's going to split them up, 1 in the natural, 2 in the main. That's a really nice wall there from Trigger, but I think it's going to be torn down before he can really react quick enough, because it is 2 DTs, and 2 DTs do quite a bit of damage. Here we go, SCV is going to start falling now. This DT is going to most likely be baited up into the main base. However, this turret should not finish either. Wildstyle is getting so many SCV kills. This is insanity. So much damage. And as you can see, man, the proxy Dark Shrine really worked. The turret gets up, but that's the... Try again. The detection range is only so limited. He does pop a scan and does get a second DT. However, this third one is still chilling up here in the base. So, eventually, once this army moves out, and Wildstyle sees it, this DT can just run on in. So the aftermath is 21 SCVs were killed on that entire engagement. That is massive. And now he's probably just going to start sprinkling DTs around the map, most likely for scouting. This DT is to just check for the third. This DT is to check for any units coming on outside. And he's going to go back in. That's 22, 23, 24. Of course, this turret does see him, but ideally you do not want to fight with SCVs ever, because that DT will absolutely wreck your SCVs, and that's never, ever, ever what you want. This turret should give him enough detection range to scout this, but this other DT is just going to get a depot, and Trigger, you know, he's like, you know, I don't really want to mess with having to try to defend 2 bases versus DTs. I think I'll just go ahead and take my 1, especially because I took so many SCV losses there during that fight. During that scramble, I suppose. I'm just going to go ahead and evac my natural, just make sure I get enough SCVs working in the main base, and then slowly but surely take my natural once again. He's got a medevac coming up here, which actually will scout the Dark Shrine and the Twilight Council. So if this gets picked off, there will be no more Blink research to be researched again until, of course, the Twilight Council is rebuilt. Third base coming down now for Wildstyle as well as Colossus, and as we can see here, yeah, Trigger is going to drop, and just go ahead and make sure he kills all this off. Actually, DTs are going to be warped in defensively here by Wildstyle, so this actually may not end up paying off. That is 2 DTs and a Zealot there. That should not be enough, especially with the scan and the healing of the medevac. You can see the bio units were able to persevere through that damage. Of course, he's going to target the Dark Shrine down first. He doesn't want to have to deal with any more DTs on defense. However, as we can see, Trigger still not taking his natural. That's a really big deal. He's losing so much income. Let's go ahead and pull up the income. As you can see just how big of a discrepancy this actually is for the Terran player. These 2 DTs going to get shut down very easily, though, by this missile turret. So that was a nice missile turret there by Trigger. However, anytime Trigger wants to go take a third, man, he's got this DT just chilling there, waiting. +2 is on the way now for Wildstyle. He is a little bit blocked here, 80 out of 84. That's unfortunate for him. Twilight Council, Dark Shrine, and Pylon all falling to the single dropship. However, Wildstyle does know its location, and there's actually another medevac heading in here to the main base. It will get shut down. A photon overcharge. Some probes did go off the line. A little bit of lost mining time there, but nothing too major. Trigger has now finally resecured his natural and has begun muling it. It is now somewhat active. He doesn't look like he's going to transfer any workers from the main base. I'm pretty sure he's got 1-1 now as well. We can go ahead and check. Yes, 1-1 to 1 weapon upgrade. So I think Wildstyle is going to be going more of a stalker-heavy emphasis here with the upgrades he's chosen, at least the initial upgrade he chose, instead of the +1 armor. Generally, you get +1 armor for Zealots if you're going to go for a more Zealot-heavy composition. But Stalkers generally benefit a little bit more from attack. He's going to be able to shut this drop down pretty easily, losing about 1 probe there. Other than that, not too many losses. This other medevac's going to start heading in here now, though. And I don't know how much damage this is going to do. A Colossus popped out. This one Colossus, if it turns around, may be enough. However, with these Marauders, it could get a little bit scary. But here comes some defensive weapons. 5 Zealots, and that's Warp Prism speed on the way, interestingly enough. So, Photon Overcharge again is used. Forces that medevac away. Warp Prism speed. So he's going to go for a lot of Warp Prisms. At least he's going to look to invest into them somewhat heavily anyway. I'm pretty sure this Warp Prism is probably going to be used for an attack. It's rallied towards the Colossus, and there's really no proxy pylons other than this one way up here across the map. So this Warp Prism is going to be pretty big here for Wildstyle, and if he gets this medevac, it'd be great for him, but Trigger does pop the afterburners and is able to escape with that medevac. It is still very low health, though, so during the fight it could be picked off, and this 1 DT could actually add a little bit of extra damage if Trigger's not careful. A second proxy pylon coming up here from Wildstyle with that probe that did put this one out. Here comes the Warp Prism with the speed upgrade. You can see it's very quick now. Blink is on the way now for Wildstyle as well. As you can see, he did rebuild that Twilight, but he's not going to go into any High Templar or any Storm Tech right now. Looks like that DT was cleaned up by that scan, unless it was picked up by the Warp Prism. No, it was not. So the Warp Prism is going to start heading into the main base now of Trigger. And if Trigger ends up evacuating his entire natural base to come back to his main to try to deal with this Warp Prism, that's when Wildstyle will strike, and then it'll have a massive contain on Trigger. And I don't think Trigger will be able to come back if that's the case. Warping in 4 Zealots here, getting +3 attack and +2 armor, so the upgrade disadvantage for Trigger is pretty substantial, I would say, and these Zealots are really starting to go to town on these SCVs, and Trigger's not going to move his entire army, but it will be enough to make Wildstyle say, alright, I think I've got enough here to assault this natural base, but here comes Trigger with all of his SCVs. This is pretty much his last defense. If he does not hold here, that is it. He's losing so many SCVs, the Colossus swipes are massive. 3 more gateways coming down now for Wildstyle. He's got more Zealots coming in here to the main base with this Warp Prism. He's not quite moving them. However, with that missile turret going down, it could open him up to some DT harassment on perhaps this armory and some of these engineering bays. There is a drop over here at the 3rd base, but that is shut down by defensive Zealot Warpins and a Photon Overcharge. And here comes these Zealots. They're going to start working on add-ons for these barracks, and again, we know what Wildstyle wants to do, and at this point he actually may go. If he goes right now, he could strike a massive blow to Trigger, but I don't think he will. This medevac is still out on the map, roaming around, trying to find any proxy pylons or any probes or anything it can find. And yeah, here comes Wildstyle. Trigger is so far out of position. Look at this. He's got all these units still stuck in his main base, not really being able to do too much. And these 2 Colossi are going to be chilling back here, doing a lot of damage. There's no force fields, though. And here come the SCVs once again. These Zealots over here are not tanking for the rest of the army, and the Colossus are now starting to get exposed. This could actually be a huge loss. 1 Colossus falls. 2nd Colossus should fall very swiftly, therefore, after. And there it goes. These Stalkers are now being slaughtered as well. These Zealots did an incredibly good job, though, killing all of those SCVs. The rest of this bio army should be enough, but here comes the rest of the Warpins. It's just more Zealots. If Trigger is able to kite well enough, he should be able to clean this up, however, because they do not have charge, so I suppose that's one saving grace here for Trigger. He could also pick up in these medevacs and try to get out, but this Warp Prism is still continuing to warp into the main base, and I think this is probably game. I don't know if Trigger can actually hold all the aggression that's coming his way. He doesn't really have a lot of money. He's pretty broke. He's trying to do what he can with what the units he's got, but I don't think it's going to be enough. These medevacs are running out of energy. That's pretty much the rest of the healing from these medevacs, and every stim now hurts, and this Warp Prism, man, unrelenting aggression. He's going to start warping in High Templar with Archons here in his main base, just to kind of solidify his victory, and there it is, GG. Wildstyle takes game number 1. Really nice play from him, to be honest, with that Warp Prism. That's definitely something I wouldn't have expected if I was the Terran player. I would have been very scared, and I would have saw the Warp Prism and probably would have tapped out right there, because, you know, I had to evac my natural that early in the game due to DTs. That's pretty scary. So, as I wait for game number 2 to start, I will go ahead and put on some music for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and be back soon.
I can't believe the night lay waste to all we'd given. But honestly, you've gotta know that this ain't living, but we could run from Elysium and let it burn. I can't believe myself. I never thought that this would be our end, but it's nothing new.
Alright guys, this is going to be the loading screen here of game number 2 in this best of 9 all-kill format clan war between Rival and Ordo equitum. Pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. It's going to be a ZVP this time around on Terraform. Alright, here we go. Up here in the top left side of the map, Terraform, playing for Ordo equitum. He's already got one game under his belt. Can he bring even bigger of a lead to his team? It is the orange Protoss, Wildstyle. Down here in the bottom right, playing for Rival Gaming, looking to tie things up, is the green Zerg, Prevail. So, Wildstyle staying supposedly true to his name and throwing out a proxy Dark Shrine there in the last game. I'm curious to see if he's going to go ahead and do the same kind of antics this time, and instead of a proxy Twilight, either a proxy Stargate or something else very similar to that, or if he's just going to play a very, very standard versus the Zerg. So, Wildstyle going for a pylon on the top of his ramp, so no Forge Fast Expand. That does not rule out the possibility of a Forge, however. If he does really want to go for that cannon rush, he can still go ahead for that Forge and try to make something happen with it. 12 probe coming out there down to the ramp. Looks like it's going to be a 12 gate here for Wildstyle, and of course this probe is coming into Prevail's base. Of course, Prevail has not quite hit 15 supply yet, so there will be no spawning pool or hatchery to speak of as this probe enters the base. Now, Prevail's going to look to play a little bit of a greedier style, and actually these probes, or these drones rather, have minerals in their mouths, so unfortunately he's going to lose a little bit of minerals as well as a little bit of mining time with these two drones. And looks like Prevail's just going to say, alright, well, you're going to look to block my natural, so I'm just going to go take my third base. I really don't even care about this. This pylon does not bother me. And there you go, boom, third base. Gateway is on the way for Wildstyle. There's still no gas either, so it's probably going to be a fairly quick nexus. And actually, he's just going to go single gas. It looked like double gas with how many minerals he had, and then he spent them all. But this drone's just going to start chasing this probe around, just tagging this probe, making sure he doesn't put down any proxies anywhere along the map, just to be completely certain. And of course, drone, I'm pretty sure, does beat a probe in a straight-up fight due to its health regeneration. And there goes a third hatchery before that spawning pool, so very, very greedy play here from Prevail. If Wildstyle decides to go Zealot Stalker Mothership Core Pressure, this could do a little bit more damage than intended here from Prevail. He may have to pull drones depending on how late his pool is. His pool is about to go down, and there you go, bam, on the production tab we see it now. This Overlord is going to come into Wildstyle's base and be like, alright, you've got a gate at your wall, you've got a core, so you've probably got a gas, because there's no reason to go the core unless you're getting gas. And he could look to be aggressive, so we'll see if Prevail decides to take any precautionary measures against this. Wildstyle still doesn't have a nexus, but he does have a probe down here. Could be faking it, but I'd imagine he'd eventually take it. And Prevail is actually going to be super safe here and send a drone scout. Well, he was, and then he decided not to, so never mind. His probe of Wildstyle still scouting around, making sure he kept that third base up, and he may look to put down a pylon somewhere. Let's see if he's got a pylon queued. No, but it still could go down over here. There goes the nexus finally from Wildstyle, and Prevail, of course, does see it as soon as it comes down, so he knows the exact timing of that. Drone comes back to begin mining once again at that third base. Okay, Ire. Warp Gate on the way, Mothership Core finishing up, second gas on the way here for Wildstyle, so this is all looking fairly standard. No Stalker on the way, a second Zealot, so he is going to look to put on a little bit of aggression here. I'd imagine he's either going to wait for another, he's either going to go with these 2 Zealots or wait for a third one and push with 3 Zealots instead. There's been no addition of any gateways, however there is a proxy pylon down here, so this does lead me to believe he does want to put on a little bit of aggression. However, Prevail's pool is done. He's making 3 queens simultaneously, as well as has the 2 Zerglings coming out, most likely to just poke the front and try to see what's up. They will be intercepted by this Mothership Core, though, which is pretty good for Wildstyle, I would say. Prevail may look to just run these Lings on anyway, and that is what he's going to do, because he kind of needs the scouting information. He needs to try to get in here and see what's up. As you can see, the Chrono Boost on the Warp Gate, it definitely is indicative of that aggressive play. He's got 2 extra gateways coming down. I would presume there would be a third, or a fourth, rather. He's got 3 gateways on the way. A Roach Warren already on the way here from Prevail, though, so if this gets up in time, he might be perfectly fine versus this. Queen is going to push the Mothership Core away. I think he may just be checking the drone saturation here at this base, and seeing if he can actually get any drones with this Mothership Core. However, Queens are pretty good at defending versus Mothership Cores, so that Queen was more than enough. Wildstyle has another proxy pylon coming up over here, and there we go, bam. 4 gateways are down for Wildstyle, and it is going to be a big 4-gate aggressive style, and he's not saturating his natural quite yet, as it did just finish a little while ago. So he's going to start to look to saturate, or at least fake saturate it, rather, to try to fake Prevail out. And yeah, he's definitely going to start committing to this. However, this Overlord will see this proxy pylon. As we can see, Prevail is like, oh, there's a Zealot, there's a bunch of, there's a probe, oh god, there's a pylon. Alright, well, here come the Zealots, and this is the first breath he sees, or first breath he gets, I suppose, of this attack coming his way. He's going to pull the Queens immediately, and he's got to make sure he keeps these Queens alive. These Queens are so crucial in the defense with their transfuses. However, that Roach Warren is really going to turn out to benefit him heavily here, as he's already producing Roaches. He's already got 1 out. However, again, these Queens are crucial. They are here to push back the Mothership Core to make sure there's no recall, but a Time Warp comes down, so Wildstyle saying, you know, I don't really care about the kind of engagements I take. I'm just going to throw down this Time Warp and try to do as much damage as I can. However, these Roaches should be able to mitigate this amount of damage. Mothership Core dies to the Queens as well, and there's a transfuse on the Queen that nearly died as well, so I would probably say Prevail comes out pretty far ahead in this exchange, to be honest, because now that means Wildstyle is going to have to rebuild that Mothership Core for the Photon Overcharge, or Time Warp, or Recall, or whatever he wishes to do with that Mothership Core. And that's just going to kind of delay him, because that's an extra 100 gas. He normally doesn't have to spend this early on in the game, and obviously he'd like to be spending that extra 100 gas on some sentries. There's like a 5th gateway coming down at the front, as well as a robotics facility, so we can tell he already knew that was going to fail, and he's already starting to transition out. There's that +1 attack on the way for Prevail, as well as a lair on the way, so I'd imagine he'd be he's going to finish the lair, he's going to go Galil Reconstitution, and then I'd imagine add Hydras. He could look to add Mutas if he wishes, but Hydras is the more standard choice. And as you can see, the second Mothership Core just finished up. Wildstyle going to go ahead and finish the wall here at the front of his base, just to make sure no Lings can flood in here and just do tons and tons and tons of damage. Mothership Core just going to be picking at this Roach, and this Roach actually may survive, which is kind of funny, because it kind of shows how tanky Roaches really are. Yeah. There was all these sentries back here tickling it too, and they really didn't do that much damage. So the Roach is going to survive. Here comes this, what is that, 7 Roach hit squad? It's, okay. Well, Prevail's just going to kind of move command him. He knows the Mothership Core can't do that much damage versus the Roaches. He's not really scared. Burrow is still on the way, so this is going to be pretty interesting. Prevail says, alright, well, I'm just going to go ahead and go Burrow, because I'm going to really commit to Roaches. And these will be really useful later on in the game as well for denying extra expansions, as well as for kind of tunneling under those force fields and kind of giving the Zerg a much better position and forcing the Protoss to kind of kite back. Prevail does find Wildstyle's pylon down here, so this one will be killed, and this one was also killed as it was scouted by the Overlord. So all proxy pylons on the map have now disappeared, so Wildstyle does lack a little bit of map vision here. Overseer is going to be killed off, as well as the Changeling, so what did Prevail actually see with that Overseer? Okay, he sees the Robo there, so he's probably feeling pretty good about his decisions so far. Wildstyle has not opted to take a 3rd base quite yet, as he's kind of scared of the amount of Roaches. He doesn't really know what Prevail is doing. He's not sure if he's still committing to Roaches or not. So Prevail, with having this vision, I'm pretty sure he would have seen a 3rd base come down, or at least a probe move out somewhere. If that were the case. He's sending 2 hallucinated phoenixes now across the map as Wildstyle, just to make sure he knows exactly what Prevail is doing. He's not going to find too much in the main, however, in the natural, he should be able to find this Hydralisk Den, and he should see the saturation. Actually, this hallucinated phoenix is going to go down, There goes this hallucinated Phoenix. May get a bit luckier. Does see the Hydras pop out of the eggs as well, so if Wildstyle was paying attention, he knows exactly what's up. Double Forge now on the way for Wildstyle, and this probe is unfortunately going to die. Once a roach spots it, they are going to go after it. They have a one-track mind, man. You tell them to do something, and they're going to do it. They don't care how long, how hard it's going to be, they're going to go do it. Because, well, the Zerg. That's just how they work. Alright, Infestation Pit now on the way for Prevail, so going up pretty quickly to the Hive, presumably for Vipers. No Spire on the way. There is that Pylon finishing up that wall, so it's going to be no third base. It's going to be yet another Warp Prism. Was that Robotics Bay cancelled? No, okay, it was finished up, so I'm curious to see if Wildstyle, like, what he's going to do with that. He's going to go for Warp Prism speed again, because that is what he used in the last game, and it worked out pretty well for him, but it's not on the production tab yet, so I'm curious to see if that's actually going to be his choice or not, or if he just kind of built it and was like, okay, I guess I kind of have to go now, because the Hydras are out, but these 4 Stalkers getting caught out here could actually pick one of them off. It doesn't look like he will be able to do so, but this is a pretty heavy all-in, and there's that Warp Prism, and there's some Force Fields, really nice Force Fields, catching a lot of those Zerg units out already. And that's a pretty nice catch. That was a pretty good chunk of units, and there's a 4th base coming for Prevail. So if Wildstyle scouts this, he could just immediately kill it, but I don't really think Prevail's going to care too much about that 4th. I think he may just let it finish and say, okay, that's fine. If he doesn't hit it, I may be in a good spot. And Wildstyle's going to need Force Fields. Going to lose the Warp Prism. Oh my god, Wildstyle. That was your really only form of reinforcement there. And he's going to Force Field out a few Hydras, so that's something, I suppose. But losing that Warp Prism, I think, is going to take a lot of the wind out of the sails of this attack here from Wildstyle. He's either going to have to remake a Warp Prism and try again, or he's going to go for the better option, in my opinion. Just try to go for a Colossus and try to play this out. But, I mean, he's 2 bases down, and ideally Zerg wants to be 1 base up, but when he's 2 bases up, he's going to be feeling even better, especially knowing he's got a hatchery before the Protoss even is thinking about taking a 3rd Nexus. This is great here for Prevail. And there's that Hive. You know, the prerequisite for that Hive is the Infestation Pit, and he's got the Infestation Pit, and the Hive is on the way now. This Changeling is not really doing too much. I don't really know what he's doing. He's just chilling there, doing whatever he wants, I suppose. Hallucinated Phoenix will not scout this 4th base. It was going in the direction, but it's going to be cut a little bit too far. Here comes Prevail across the map, though, and he does have those tunneling claws, so those Force Fields are not going to be as useful as they were initially. They will still be useful versus those Hydras, but not quite against those Roaches, especially with their ability to tunnel under them. Mothership Core under fire. It will go ahead and get away from this cliff, which is nice for Wildstyle, so that does mean he's got a Photon Overcharge as well as a Time Warp. He's going to pop the Photon Overcharge now. There is 1 Colossus here, but Wildstyle has to make sure he hits his Force Fields. He tries, but doesn't catch anything. That's really nice play from Prevail. The more Force Fields you force out, the better I think it is for the Zerg player. Here comes some Changelings. They're going to try to get in here and scout, but they should be killed off. Yeah, there's 1 being killed off, and 2nd, and the 3rd one's just going to chill. Yeah, okay. 4th base is up, not really saturated. There is a Queen there for those injects, and that +2 attack is on the way, but not +2 armor, and Hallucinated Phoenix sees the setup here of Prevail and Wildstyle. He's probably thinking, alright, I pretty much just have to try to mass Colossus and just go for it. He's got a Warp Prism coming across the map, which will help him, but however, there's really no way to deal with this attack, and he kind of knows that. He's going to take this Warp Prism and say, alright, I'm going to take this Warp Prism, I'm going to warp into your 4th base, and then I'm going to try to make sure that forces you back. If that forces you back, it may buy me enough time to just go ahead and take this 3rd base. However, Prevail smartly is not taking everything. He's taking a small chunk of units. That Queen's going to push it away for now. Alright, Kaboosh. That's cool, man. Alright. I'll keep that in mind. Alright, so this Warp Prism is still trying to do something, and as you can see, the line of sight blockers are actually helping him, but Prevail, again, he saw this a mile away. However, there was a Dark Shrine that was made that I actually totally forgot to mention, and now it's starting to come into play here, and these DTs are probably going to shred this army, this small group of military Zerg units here, and they should be able to kill the hatchery as well. And there's no okay, there's 2 Overseers on the way all the way back here, and I don't believe there's Overlord speed. No, there's not. So they're going to be slightly slower than if they had Overlord speed. This Warp Prism is dangerously low. He's going to run in here, he's going to get sniped by a Queen, and that'll be it. You saw a consume animation there for just a couple of seconds as I switched back here to the DT going down, and again, Wildstyle is going to come out here and say, alright, I hope that Warp Prism brought enough units back, and here we go. The Force Fields are decent, the Colossus are still alive, and I think that's the big part of this army, are these Colossi dealing against these Hydras. is really nice. And this one Dark Templar man still swiping away at this 4th base. Alright, so Wildstyle is looking to take a 3rd base. However, Prevail's just like, alright, you're going to kill this base up here? I'll just take another one down here. That DT was cleaned up, so that base was saved. So this base can actually be forfeit for pretty much nothing, and he'll be perfectly fine with actually sacking this. I don't think it's a massive problem. Prevail is supply blocked right now, however. 200 out of 200. He is maxed now. He was blocked there, but he went ahead and, you know, made some overlords. These drones are going to fall, and the Warp Prism is now in the main base, and there's a couple Zealots and a DT running into the natural. They're going to see what they can do. At the same time, Prevail, though, running in here, really nice force fields there from Wildstyle, and he does save that Colossus as well. And again, the Colossi are the big part of this puzzle here for the Protoss player. As long as he can deal with those Hydras, the rest of his Gateway Core should be able to do the rest of the work. That big Warpin is still going uncontested in the main base, and that attack from Prevail may not end up being too helpful, as he did lose some units, and he's trying to scramble to deal with all the harassment coming from Wildstyle, and he's going to try to retake this 5th base, and he's building Ventral Sacks now as well. And 5 extra Vipers, I feel like that's a little bit too much, to be honest with you. I feel like 3 to 4 is okay, but I feel like once you hit that 5 mark, it's a little bit too many. This Queen is going to end up falling to this one Zealot. Unfortunately, the Roaches and the Hydras were like, no, don't worry, Queen, you're here to save you, and then they just said, no, I don't feel like it anymore. So 3rd base finally coming down now for Wildstyle. We'll go ahead and look at the worker counts, 48 to 42, so a slight advantage to Wildstyle. However, Prevail does have many, many more bases, so I think he's okay with training inefficiently at the moment. With that Hive Tech done as early as it was, 3-3 is already on the way. Well, it's actually not that early. Now that I look at the game clock, 21 minutes, it's really not that early, to be honest with you. I thought he would have had that much earlier. Hallucinated Phoenix is going to get shut down, not going to see the Vipers, and there is no Templar Archives on the map that I see. So these Vipers are going to actually be a massive hindrance to Wildstyle if he wants to be aggressive in any phase of the game. It's going to be pretty tough for him to do so, as those Vipers, man, they're just going to yoink the Colossus and kill him off immediately. And again, that's the big part of the puzzle for the Protoss. If they lose those, that Gateway Core is going to have a real tough time dealing with the Roaches and the Hydras still left on the ground. He made another Warp Prism. He's going to go ahead and get it away, which is nice, but oh, don't run under the army. That was almost really bad. He's only got 2 Colossus, does Wildstyle, and he's building a 3rd one, but look at that Gateway Core. Like, it's gonna absolutely melt to the Hydras. Like, if these Hydras are not contended against, it's gonna be a really big problem, and Prevail's gonna run in here to the natural. Here's these Vipers. These Vipers are gonna start abducting these Colossi, and there we go. 1, 2, pulled immediately. They both fall, and great Blinding Clouds as well. That army is pretty much completely nullified. Its range advantage was nothing there to Prevail. However, he has to make sure he doesn't walk into his own Blinding Clouds, and it does dissipate, so that's nice, but he has to make sure he doesn't lose these Vipers. 1 go down. He will save the rest of them by the looks of things, and Prevail is just kind of, his units are just derping around on these force fields. Not sure what that was all about. He's going to warp in defensive DTs, going to catch a few units, but he's going to go assault the main now as Prevail. He knows, alright, I can go assault the main, there's really nothing you can do about it. I know that's your army. You've got some DTs. There is one Overseer here, and another Colossus pops out. I would imagine Prevail would just run over there and start killing it immediately, but I don't really know what's going on. Okay, he was attacking the Dark Shrine now. I was wondering what he was attacking, and here we go. Prevail is slowly getting whittled down here, funnily enough, but it doesn't matter. The Wildstyle knows there's really nothing he can do against that type of army at that point in the game. I mean, he lost his natural. He's got no real army left. His 3rd was incredibly late. His opponent was on like 5, 6 bases. He knows there's really nothing he can do at that point. He's outmined, outgunned, out everything, I suppose. So that does tie up the series, and as we wait for the next game to be ready, I will go ahead and put on some music. So thank you so much for watching, and be back with you shortly.
Push it back down if I have to, if you want me to, 'cause we can run, and we can run, 'cause stars they fall all for you. So tell me now, what's left to lose if we run?
Look into my eyes and show me your adventures I haven't seen. Taking all the life, it hits the spot. Walking on fantasy. So take me, baby, take me to a state of mind that's made of, baby, that's made of all that we find. Test the waters, oh it's hot. I think we're getting close. Racing through the waves, I want to be where nobody knows. So take me, baby, take me to a state of mind that's made of, baby, that's made of all that we find.
Alright, we are in to game number 3. Finally. Here we go, on the loading screen. Alright. As I said, game number 3 in this best of 9 all-kill format clan war between Rival and OE. Current score is 1-1. Both teams are tied up. We are replaying Terraform, which is interesting to me, because generally the clan wars that I am a part of do not replay maps right one after another. But hey, that's cool. You know, whatever they decide to do, let's get into it. Down here in the bottom right side of the map known as Terraform. Playing for OE, looking to regain the lead. It's the purple Zerg player Dimmu. Up here in the top left, playing for Rival, trying to go ahead and get his team the first lead they have had tonight. The green Zerg prevail. ZVZ. Of course, with both players making overlords here on 9 supply, there is going to be no 10 pool, no crazy aggression. So, what's going to come down next is, does somebody put down anything on 14? Will it be 14 gas, 14 pool, or will it just be straight 15 standard supply hatchery / spawning pool? That's what I'm really curious about, so we'll just have to wait and see. Dimmu is sending out a drone to drone scout, which is fairly non-standard in Zerg versus Zerg, to be honest with you, because generally you feel safe enough sending your overlord across the map to the point where it really doesn't matter. You know you're going to get the information that you need at the time you need it. Whereas sending a drone scout, I mean, honestly, what are you going to see? But now we know why he's sending this drone scout out, as a 14 pool goes down. Curious to see if it's going to be followed up by a 14 gas or not. Doesn't look like it will be. It's just a slightly earlier pool and attempts to deal with anything. And it's a hatch block. This is interesting. This is definitely not something you see very often in ZVZ. And Prevail, seeing this hatch block, may start to think to himself, okay, this might be some really heavy aggression, so I'm just going to put down a spawning pool and I'm going to make sure I'm completely safe against pretty much everything he can throw at me. So this is pretty good. However, this is going to play in Dimmu's favor, as he went for a pretty quick spawning pool, and he's delayed his opponent's hatchery long enough to get his own hatchery faster than his opponent, who was planning to go 15 hatch. So he needs to make sure he doesn't lose his drone, and he is going to lose it, unfortunately. That's actually a big blow. In ZVZ, drones do matter. However, this drone carrying minerals, that's that 5 minerals lost that entire time he was chasing that drone around, as well as the mining time that was lost. So it may even out in the end again. I don't really know the math on workers and their efficiencies and whatnot. So Queen's on the way for both players. Dimmu is making 2 Zerglings, which is interesting because right before that drone died, I probably would have sent it at the main base. Now, did Dimmu scout the main with his overlord? No. So it's kind of interesting that he sent a drone scout and then just didn't scout the main with it at all. It's kind of odd, to be honest, because that's generally something you don't see very often. So, I mean, it's kind of weird. So he's going to send these 2 lings just to make sure he knows precisely what Prevail is doing, which I agree with it. You know, if you know you can't get in the main base and do any scouting, you send your 2 Zerglings. So the Zerglings of Prevail are also going to go ahead and do the same thing, but Dimmu's lings are going to get here first, and there's no scout denial so far. And splitting them up nicely here is Dimmu, and he's going to be able to see the gas and the pool, going to be able to see speed is being researched, and meanwhile Prevail on the other side of the map is going to do the exact same thing. He's going to get in here, and he's going to scout the speed on the way, and Prevail's actually going to do a little bit of a Zergling flood here with a Baneling Nest on the way. This is definitely an aggressive play. There's no reason to flood lings into a Baneling Nest, and he's pretty much got this timed out, whereas as his Bane Nest finishes, his Zergling speed should be done as well. And he's just going to continue to pump lings from this point forward. Honestly, there's no reason not to. And Dimmu is getting a defensive Spine Crawler, but I don't know how much it's going to help him, as he doesn't have any extra queens beyond these 2, which means if he wants to block this main ramp with these 2 queens, he's not going to have any injects, which means he'll have a much lower larva production as opponent. So, in theory, Prevail is somewhat ahead at this point in the game. However, Dimmu just now starting his Baneling Nest. It's slightly late. Spinecrawler going to take a little bit of damage, but not too much, as the Zerglings of Dimmu will be able to push away the Zerglings of Prevail. However, here comes the biggest threat. The Banelings are beginning to morph, and Prevail is going to begin by just sending Zerglings in. He's going to poke, he's going to see what's up, and he sees the Spinecrawler. He's going to try to go after it, and he's also going to have to make sure he doesn't lose too many Zerglings here, otherwise the follow-up attack will not be too great. However, he does clean up the Zerglings of Dimmu, and Dimmu needs to make sure he holds positions on the ramp with those queens, and here come the Banelings. Speed just finished for Dimmu. He needs to be really careful. That Baneling was so close. And here we go, the Baneling. That was a pretty dang good hit there from Prevail there, and one queen gonna fall, second queen gonna fall as well, most likely. No, barely saved it. That Spinecrawler finished up just at the right time. More Banelings coming in now for Prevail, and he's gonna try to knock down the Spinecrawler with the Zerglings, but it's not gonna prove to be too effective, and he's gonna lose a few Zerglings. He's still continuing to pump them, but so is Dimmu, rather. I almost call them Dimmu, as in the Muslim. However, there's only one queen here for Dimmu, and that's kind of a problem. He's going to run the Banelings into Spinecrawler. That Spinecrawler is now dead. Oh, the Zerglings of Prevail are so close. He needs to really make sure he doesn't lose connections with these Banelings, and these Zerglings are cutting it very close, and this Baneling over here, man, he was so close. Dimmu needs to really make sure he doesn't let a big connection hit. Nice target fire with that queen. Does take that Baneling down, and Prevail's attack is, unfortunately for him, repelled. However, let's take a look at the drone counts, 15 to 19, so Dimmu is still slightly ahead. However, that extra larva production that Prevail has may end up propelling him slightly ahead in the worker count, as he's got the second queen. He's been in, well, actually, he's only got one queen, never mind. Alright, so they were on good lord, they were on even larva production there for a little while. I seriously thought Prevail had two queens there initially. I don't remember one going down, but now Dimmu's going to try to make a counterattack work, which this is generally what happens in ZVZ. You get one player to go for really aggressive play, defend. If he defends, cool, he goes for a counter. If he does not defend, well, he just dies. It's pretty much that simple. So the Baneling hits are really crucial here, and ooh, that's a really nice trade. That was about 5 Zerglings for one Baneling. That is a fantastic start for Dimmu already, and let's go ahead and look at the Zergling counts. 9 to 10, so not too far off. However, 7 Banelings to 4 for Dimmu. That's pretty substantial, especially in a Zergling Baneling war. You've got a lot more Banelings you just kind of throw away. And here we go. The Zerglings of Dimmu's trying to poke in, and the 2 Banelings of Prevail were looking for something. Didn't get what they wanted, as the Banelings of Dimmu did connect nicely. And looks like this attack will be repelled from Prevail as well. So neither playing doing really any damage. Only one worker exchange there for both players, so not too much damage being taken by either player. And it looks like Prevail's going to continue on with the attack. He's like, alright, I repelled your attack, now I'm going to go ahead and go on the offensive. And this +1 carapace could definitely end up helping him a ton later on in this game. However, no player teching to Hive yet, as they know they kind of got to play defensive, and there we go. There's a tech choice from Dimmu. He is going to go for those roaches, which, to be honest with you, is a pretty good choice. He just has to make sure he scouts what Prevail is doing. If Prevail goes into roaches, he may have a slight upgrade advantage depending on when Dimmu puts down his evolution chambers, and that's going to be the big tell. Because so far, there are no evolution chambers on the map for Dimmu, and this +1 carapace may not seem like a lot, but could add quite a bit of punch to Prevail's army later on if it becomes Roach versus Roach Wars. Lair coming in now for Dimmu, so that Roach speed is going to be able to be started, and that's probably really all that Lair is going to be for. Could be for tunneling claws with Burrow as well, but he's not researching Burrow quite yet, as he doesn't quite have the money. He's going to look to do another counterattack here, but I don't think that's going to happen at all. I don't think it's really going to work, as Prevail should be perfectly fine versus this. These 4 Banelings, I mean, he's got to make sure, Prevail, to land his Banelings on his opponent's Banelings. That's really the only way he's going to. That was not too good of a trade, and these Banelings are going to force each other away. That was decent connections there from both players, not too bad, but these 3 extra Banelings not finding too much, so he should be perfectly fine here, Prevail, and yeah, he's fine. Those Banelings were not the greatest connections for Dimmu. And there's 2 queens now out for both players, so they are even on larva production. However, Dimmu with these 2 spines should be fine versus any counterattack, and he's got the tech advantage with that Lair finishing up. Upgrade advantage does go to Prevail though, and in case anybody didn't know, Zerg +1 ground carapace lets Zerglings tank an extra Baneling hit, which is actually pretty substantial because they don't just melt immediately. And Prevail going to launch a counterattack now, and Dimmu going to ask for a pause. That's fine. Currently, Dimmu taking his other 3 gases here, so he's going to look to probably go really heavy roach production. No third for either player yet. Drone counts 25 to 44, so Prevail, even though he's been repelling these attacks time and time again, we just saw the worker counts, right? Like, I'll go ahead and bring it up again, 25 to 44. Like, he's got more army, but Dimu's economy is going to be skyrocketing here, and he's going to be able to make a lot more roaches. And Prevail, I mean, he's really got a couple of options, right? And this Zergling counterattack has potential, don't get me wrong, but with these two spine crawlers, if he just kind of A-moves them across the map and they start hitting the spines plus the queen, it may not go so well for him. But, I mean, Prevail's options are either mutas and just try to kind of contain his opponent on, like, 3 bases perhaps and take a third of his own and use the mutas for map control and try to just contain him and make sure he can't really move out and do too much on the map. Or try to play roaches and try to capitalize on his upgrade advantage with his +1 carapace. I mean, I think those are really his only 2 options, unless he wants to go for just a straight Zergling Baneling all-in, which may or may not work. It's questionable, I suppose, if he were to make that decision. And honestly, looking at his drone count, he's not making any more drones. That could definitely be the case here. He could just say, alright, you know, I'm going to go for it. I don't really care. And I forgot the worker counts are here, too, so... Hey, I don't think this observer interface is in Legacy right now, and because I used the default one in Legacy. Anyways, these Zerglings have potential, but again, if they just kind of run in here versus these 2 spines and this 1 queen, they may not be enough. His spines are pretty dang tanky, and they dish out quite a bit of damage. A couple of Baneling connections going down, so Dimu pretty much sacrificed all 6 Banelings he had morphing there. It was 5 or 6, and they didn't really do too much. So Dimu going to continue Zergling production as well, but that extra economy may help him a lot. And here come these Zerglings. Let's see what they get done. They're immediately getting poked down by the spine crawlers. They will kill this queen, and drones are being pulled to fight here as well for Dimu. I don't know how much I feel. I don't know how great that decision is, because he's going to lose every single drone at his mineral line, and that's pretty much going to be most of his advantage gone, like right there. Boom. His advantage in workers is pretty much nullified. He's only up 4 workers now, where it was like 20-something earlier. Maybe not quite 20-something, but it was pretty dang good worker advantage, and now that pretty much just vanished with him just kind of A-moving his drones towards those Zerglings. He's going to try to rebuild that lead, and there's a Spire from Dimu as well, which is interesting. So I was pretty certain that Dimu was just going to straight flood roaches and just say, okay, cool, if you go Spire, that's not a big deal, and those were massive Baneling hits there for Dimu. That is fantastic for him, cleaning up all those Zerglings, and of course, I would definitely go for counterattack after getting Baneling hits like that. Let me tell you, that is fantastic. However, there is this wall here. It's not quite plugged, but we'll see how much Dimu can actually get done here, and he may decide to just pull back. And Prevail is actually going to be the one going for roaches here, and Dimu is going to look to play that Mutalisk style, which is interesting. There's a few Overlords littered around the map, so those Mutas definitely have potential. Curious to see where he sends the rest of his Overlords, and oh god, Prevail, you need to be real careful with those Zerglings, man. But these roaches are going to plug up the rest of the hole in that wall, and they should be fine now. Prevail should be perfectly fine versus this Zergling Baneling aggression. Nothing more should really come of it, and these Banelings are going to try as they may, they just kill themselves, and, well, it didn't really accomplish too much. +1 attack now on the way for Prevail, so he's going to be 1-1 versus 0-0, and Dimu's going to ask for yet another pause, which I don't really know what's going on. Maybe internet issues, telephone. Okay, well, third base coming up now for Dimu, so he's still trying to capitalize on his economy advantage, and that Spire is finished. There it is, it's in the main base. It is done, and he does have all 4 gases. He can make 6 mutas right now with the amount of gas he has, but to be honest, Prevail doesn't really have that much of an economy, and he was lower than Dimu pretty much the whole time. And if he doesn't catch wind of this muta transition, he could get a lot of drones here, and that would be really, really good for him. And I don't think Prevail can make that many roaches with his income. I don't know. It's hard to say. 35 workers is definitely not optimal on 2 base at all. We generally want like 50. Because you can see he's got all 4 gases, but he's only mining off 3. This one isn't even saturated, so this 14 out of 24 is going to drop to 11 out of 24. So they're going to be on the same saturation. He's going to be on the same saturation. He is making 8 drones right now, though. But that's larva he's not spending into roaches. Because, like, right now, his roach count is not enough to just go across the map and say, I'm going to threaten you with these roaches. You have to come home with your mutas to deal with them. Like, it's not really going to be that scary. They are 1-1, though. So that is a redeeming factor. But I don't know if he's going to push without speed. because that speed upgrade is pretty crucial for getting across the map quickly. So muta production should be starting here for Dimmu as soon as the game resumes, and there they are. 6 mutas, Galil Reconstitution, of course. Third base, so Dimmu definitely has map control and will continue to retain that map control through the muta list, whereas I would say they probably have similar map control right now, but Prevail is eventually going to lose a ton of his. But Prevail launching a counterattack towards this third base could prove to be quite devastating, and here comes Prevail. Is he going to see the Spire? That's the biggest question here. He is going to scout the Spire, so he knows what's up and even sees the mutas pop out of the eggs, so he knows what's up. Spores starting immediately. Third base being assaulted by these Zerglings as well. This may be a cancel. It's going to be pretty close. I think it should be a cancel. I don't think there's any way Dimmu can save it with the few lings he's gotten. Oh my god. Okay, he does cancel at last second. Nice cancel there from Dimmu, making sure he doesn't lose those 300 minerals. But that's really nice for Prevail. But you can see he's doing what I'm talking about. He's just like, alright, I'm going to push across the map and try to do what I can. But without Galil Reconstitution, look how slow these roaches are. There's not a lot they can do, and Galil Reconstitution did just finish, but he kind of knows he can't really take a third on his own with these mutas out in force on the map. There's not really much he can do versus these mutas until he gets Hydras out, and that's going to be a while, but he did force a cancel on Dimmu's third, so that does put Dimmu back slightly. But as we can see, he's just going to take map control as Dimmu is going to say, alright, I've got these mutas, I'm going to take map control, I'm going to contain you on like 2 bases. I'm going to try to contain you on 2 bases anyway, because now these spores are starting to move forward, and there's a few queens. But the supply block does begin, and a few overlords have been killed. Let's actually see how many overlords were lost there. It looks like 3 were lost for Prevail, so not too much damage from these mutas so far. But now Creep Tumor is going to start to be picked off as well. Another overlord going to fall. Further supply blocking Prevail. He's going to look to just pick away the Spore. I don't know if he's going to get it in time, especially with these queens here. He's going to go for it anyway. He may get it, but the Hydra should push him away. The nice transfuse is there and actually costs him a muta and his Overseer, so that was actually really good. But Dimmu, the rest of Dimmu's army is coming across the map, but the 1-1 for Prevail should help him a ton in this Roach versus Roach war. He's just going to make sure he splits his Hydras correctly, and there was a nice Baneling hit from Prevail as well, to just try to clean up the lings of Dimmu to try to remove the buffer from his units. Now this queen is full energy, so she could use the transfuse there, and Prevail is taking a third, and Dimmu already has his third, and it's droning up. He's taking his extra 2 gases, and he's looks like he's transitioning into just straight roaches with 1-1 on the way. Hydra's picking away at some overlords here, and Dimmu's just going to look to go ahead and go back home and look to transition into roaches of his own, I'd imagine. Does he have Galil Reconstitution? Yes, he does have Galil Reconstitution, so... But that's the thing, he's playing the catch-up game in terms of upgrades, which isn't great. However, forcing Prevail into Hydras this early on could end up playing to his advantage. If he gets a bigger roach count and just floods roaches, and there's not a lot of Hydras on the map, it could end up being really, really good for Dimmu, because Hydras are not the tankiest units ever. They deal a lot of DPS, and if you can keep them alive long enough, like behind a giant roach wall, it definitely bodes very, very well for the Roach Hydra player. However, just a pure Roach player can sometimes just get a big, giant army of roaches together and just push and overwhelm the front Roach wall of their opponent and get back to those squishy Hydras and just kind of melt them. And then that sort of ends the game. I think Dimmu's plan of attack here, seeing this Centrifugal Hooks upgrade, is Roach Baneling, which is interesting. I'll give him that. Dimmu's also taking a 4th base behind all of this, but the Roach Baneling is kind of odd, because you're making a ton of Banelings, and the whole point of the Banelings, at least in the comp that he's kind of forced Prevail to go for, is try to connect on the Hydras, but Prevail has quite a few Banelings of his own, so he's got to make sure to dodge his opponent's Banelings, and then, if it's just like Roach Bane versus pure Roach, you have to split your Roaches, but it's all about the Hydras, because if the Hydras die, the handful of mutas are just going to be completely uncontested, which sounds kind of weird because there's only 5 of them, but it'll take them a long, long, long time to kill the mutas, but they'll eventually, or the roaches, excuse me, but they'll do it eventually. And as we can see, the map control for Dimmu is so much better. Let's go ahead and look at both players' visions. This is Dimmu's vision. He sees pretty far, and then here's Prevail's vision. So as we can see, Dimmu definitely has the better map vision as well, so that's really nice for him. Starting to drone up this 4th base, worker count 61 to 63, infestation pick coming down for Prevail now, probably for those infestors, and he's definitely got the tech advantage, as well as the upgrade advantage right now. He's working on his 2-2, Dimmu's got his 2-2 on the way, but it pretty much just started. Burrows, Prevail, as well as Ventral Sacks, really? Alright, that could definitely end up working in his favor. I'm not sure he has Overlord speed yet. No, he does not, so I don't know if that's a misclick or not, because I'm sure I've done that a couple of times. And Prevail looking to take the gold, but the mutas are going to find it and shut that down. So Prevail is going to come over in here and respond with the handful of Hydras, which is more than enough to deal with this handful of mutas. It's not really a big deal. They're going to catch themselves an Overlord, though, therefore blocking Prevail, which isn't bad. 8 spines, though. Prevail is very scared about an attack, and he kind of knows he has to be more efficient than his opponent right now. Considering all the damage he's taken and considering everything that's gone on in this game, he kind of has to be more efficient. And yeah, we can see Dimmu is just playing Roach Bane. He's getting that giant Roach army, and he's going to look to crash through the Roach wall of Prevail and just go in on those Hydras and kill them. And these Roaches are a godsend for Prevail right now. He sees the entirety of the army, and now he's got to think, oh no, what do I do? And he's not responding yet. This could actually be a big deal, but these 3 spines going to add a lot of DPS. But hey, you can see Prevail has to run. There's no way you can fight these Speed Banes. He's going to try to do the Bane connection, but the Speed Banes are just so much faster, it doesn't matter. And Prevail is going to try to do something. He's got a lot of Roaches going to the main base, actually, but Dimmu is working towards the natural of Prevail at the same time. And these Roaches are going to unburl and start to do some damage. This is going to be a pretty hectic game, but I think at the end of the day, I think Dimmu comes out ahead in this. He's got a better economy. He's at a 4th base for much longer. However, Prevail is doing a fantastic job of splitting up these Roaches every which way and hitting almost every base he can all at once. Whereas Dimmu's really just kind of putting all of his eggs in one basket and just kind of moving his army to one location. He's starting to move some Roaches back to try to deal with this. The gold base of Prevail is being fired upon by 3 Roaches, but he's trying to take this base now as well. And Dimmu is still shelling down the natural, whereas Prevail is just in the mineral lines, man. He's in the drone lines doing so much damage. He may even get the lair, which would be a huge pick-off for him, and he is going to get it. That does somewhat reset the tech of his opponent, and there's going to be a burrowed Baneling, which is kind of funny. They just got to save it from the Broodlings, and that gold base is still being fired upon, and Prevail knows he can't really win. As we can see, these Roaches are here hitting this hatchery, and I mean, he's just got more bases. He's got these Roaches coming back to deal with this. Yeah, sure, these Roaches are in the main, and they're kind of scary, but Dimmu just has too many, so good game. That does give OE the lead once again in this series, so they're probably feeling pretty good about where they're sitting right now. So as we wait for the next game to get started, I will put on some music, so thank you so much for watching, and I hope to be back with you shortly.
take my hand and we'll go away to a different place. Float on air and we'll hide away. I'll be your escape. Look up and feel the shifting winds tossing us around again. Hold tight, get ready to begin and just levitate.
Alright, this is going to be game number 5 in this best of 9. Now, in case anybody wasn't watching chat, the OE player from the last game who was victorious, left. So we went ahead and updated the score to 2-2, so that's what makes this game number 5. As you can see, it's Dash and Terminal, another ZVZ, and I'm not complaining, because Legacy of the Void is pretty much nothing but Zergs, but it isn't Legacy. Let's go ahead and get into it up here in the top left side of the map, known as Dash and Terminal, looking to once again take his team into the lead for Ordo Equitum, the yellow Zerg, Dan Belnick. I'm going to call him Dan because it's just easier. And up here in the top right, playing for Rival, looking to give his team the lead, the red Zerg, MD Knights. Alright, so there's not a lot you can do. Of course, if you want to channel your inner cats, you can go 9 pool, 9 spore to try to kill this Overlord, and then just go kill your opponent, but looks like neither player is going to opt for something like that creative, as both players going for Overlord on 9, so no 10 pools, no 10 pool, 10 gas, no crazy early cheese, and again, it's kind of hard to do something on this map just because the Overlord distance is so close to each other. Like, it's insane. Like, there's very little information you can hide from your opponent if they're a Zerg on this map. As a Protoss, as a Terran, or as another Zerg playing in a mirror matchup, it gets pretty tough. So MD Knights, I'm curious to see where this second Overlord is rallied. Okay, to the middle of the map on the third, and then Dan is doing a similar thing, or if he's going to leave his Overlord in the middle of the map, so that's not too bad. And there's a spawning pool on 15 for both players, so they're just going to play real safe, just make sure there's, you know, they're not going to die to any kind of crazy 10 pools or anything like that. So that's nice and safe and standard from both players. Now we just have to kind of wait and see when they put down their hatcheries, which of course they will. Dan is now sending a drone down to his natural. Hatchery should go down, and MD Knights is going to go ahead and do the same thing. So everything is similarly timed here for both players. Dan's hatchery is slightly quicker, which means his gas will also be slightly quicker. As we can see, there's no gas for MD Knights. MD Knights just may be deliberately skipping gas at this point. May just be waiting for 16, but no, there goes the gas. So pools are about to finish. Of course, the Overlords only have a limited amount of time once that pool finishes to stay in their opponent's base, as the Queens can force them away and perhaps even kill them with poor Overlord control, I suppose. So the Queen is pretty late for both players because they're both about 200 minerals. Alright, there goes the Queen for Dan. Where's the Queen for MD Knights? It's not started yet. 2 Zerglings for both players, though, again, strictly for the scout. I'm pretty sure they scouted each other. Well, I mean, excuse me, MD Knights has the right idea. He's just going to chill back here and check the gases of Dan to make sure he knows exactly how much he's mined and everything. And Dan, in the meantime, has not actually scouted MD Knight's base at all. So these 2 Zerglings are going to be vital in their survival, and they will be able to get in there, like, pretty much for free, because there's not much you can do early on in ZVZ to deny this double Zergling scout. Queen's coming out now for both players. We can see the speed has started, and of course Dan is just gonna transfer some drones down to his natural. This one Zergling is very ambitious. Don't worry, guys, I'll kill the hatchery, it's fine, don't worry about it. 2 Zerglings of Dan do get into MD Knight's base and actually spot the Baneling Nest as well. And I know he sees it. And the question is, does he prepare? Does he say, oh, you're not gonna do anything, that's just defensive? Or does he say, okay, I need to kind of prepare for this, like, this is legitimate? Curious to see what he does. Second Queen, of course, for both players, is on the way. Okay, MD Knight's deciding to make his second Queen in the main, get it a lot earlier, and Dan is just deciding to delay it and get the second Queen at the natural instead. There's the Baneling Nest now for Dan in the back of his base, so it's perfectly fine. Both players will have Banelings, and the speed of Dan is much quicker than MD Knight's as well, so it kind of evens out. Both players can't really put on a lot of aggression. They can try, but Dan's Zerglings will be more effective. However, MD Knights has the quicker Banelings, but it looks like it's just going to be straight defensive Banelings, so it looks like Dan actually does want to put on the pressure with that earlier Ling speed, so that's fine. I mean, it all comes out of control, really, at this point. Like, that's all it is. It comes down to straight control and how many drone losses MD Knights takes. Because if he takes irrecoverable damage from this attack, the game just sort of ends, and it's really weird. But there's a Roach Warren on the way now for MD Knights, as well as an Evolution Chamber, but they're in his main, they're not down here at a wall, so that may end up hurting him here. As here comes Dan, all these Banelings, oh, that was so close. Those two banelings were so incredibly close. Dan now going to start to pick away at these banelings, and these Zerglings of MD Knight just pretty much got slaughtered there. They really couldn't put up a fight, but he's got 4 banelings at his disposal with this one just about to finish morphing in, so it's not too bad. It will be 4 versus 4. It all comes down to the baneling hits here. And they're going to try... Okay, banelings trade. There's still 2 extra banelings here for MD Knights, though, so he should be perfectly fine. Here comes the first baneling. Not going to do much. Almost gets the queen. He might be able to get it. Dan is trying to micro to try to kill his bane, but I don't think he can stay too much longer unless he wants to commit even more. And the baneling was cancelled there by the looks of things, so... Dan is going to be forced back, and MD Knights holds. I think Dan can actually turn around and take that fight if he wanted to, but he didn't, which was interesting. He must have been focusing on injects or something else, but that's a lot more Zerglings here from Dan, so he's going to go again. He's not going to rally all of his Zerglings all at once across the map, and is he making any more banelings? Yes, there is the big morph. 8 banelings on the way, and the worker counts at 21 to 27. All MD Knights has to do is make sure he holds this. If he holds, he's pretty much good. His drone count is better. So if he holds this, he's actually fine. However, Dan actually has a slightly better natural saturation. Yeah, it's slightly better. He doesn't have the gas, though, which MD Knights has the gas at his natural, so it kind of evens itself out. But here come the banelings here for Dan. What is he going to be able to get done? The banelings of MD Knights going to try. Ooh, that was great for MD Knights. Just killed so many banelings, and that was a pretty good connection there from Dan, and really good connections again on those drones. And it looks like Dan may end up getting the better end of this trade. Yeah, okay, he's into the drones now. The drones are starting to be picked off. He's into that one roach. That roach is going to fall, and the entire mineral line of MD Knights has been cleaned up here by these Zerglings. And now MD Knights is kind of in trouble. Like, he doesn't really have a lot of Zerglings. There's continued Zergling production here from Dan. The drones are forced to be pulled again. That queen is surrounded. That queen is almost certainly dead. And now he's got this one baneling to try to shoo away these Zerglings. He does have these 2 roaches, though, does MD Knights, so that's somewhat of a saving grace, but I don't know if it's actually going to be enough, as more and more Zerglings are being made here from Dan, and he's going to try to get the surround on these roaches, but a couple of Zerglings being buffered. There's one roach in the back that's kind of keeping his distance, but I don't think it matters. That one roach gets surrounded. This last roach should get surrounded if he overcommits, and he does. He will get completely surrounded, and now MD Knights is making 3 roaches, and that's pretty much his only defense, as Dan is continuously attacking, and MD Knights has masterfully executed GG, and Dan is going to take game number 5, and that means OE, man, they win the next game. They win the clan war. So that was really nice there by Dan, though, to be honest. Like, that was really nicely executed. MD Knights tried to rush for roaches to try to defend, but it just wasn't enough, and unfortunately, that's the nature of ZVZ. So, as we wait for the next game to get set up, I will put on some music, and I hope to see you guys soon.
stars while I'm standing on the pavement. Spinning around, lost and found, just trying to make a statement. Lift the weight off my shoulders, let the birds in the sky is where I'd like to be. Without gravity to hold us down, together we lose sight of the ground. Place my dreams among the stars while I'm standing on the pavement. Spinning around, lost and found, just trying to make a statement. Lift the weight off my shoulders, let the birds in the sky is where I'd like to be. Without gravity to hold us down, together we lose sight of the ground. Place my dreams among the stars while I'm standing on the pavement. Spinning around, lost and found, just trying to make a statement. Lift the weight off my shoulders, setting me free. With the birds in the sky is where I'd like to be. Without gravity to hold us down, together we lose sight of the ground.
Alright, here we go. This could be the entire thing here for OE. I have to see, as you can see, the map is Coda, and there's yet another ZVZ, which again, I'm not going to complain about. So, here we go. Down here in the bottom right side of Coda, playing for Rival, looking to take this game and the last one, and then, or rather, and the next one to take this clan war. It's the Blueser, Caleb Arrakis. And up here in the top right, or left, excuse me, top left side, looking to close this clan war out for Ordo S. I don't remember their name. I'm gonna call them OE. The Yellow Zerg, Dan Belnick, who will be called Dan. So, no crazy 10 pools. Again, that's good, I guess. So, Overlords on 9 per each player. Now, is Dan going to go for another aggressive build against Caleb, or is he going to play more conservative this game? That's really what I'm curious about. As last game, he did a really quick Zergling Baneling kind of play and really caught his opponent off guard and was able to take the game pretty nicely. So we'll have to wait and see if he does the same thing or not. 15 supply coming up here. We'll see what both players do. In the last game, it was pool firsts for both players. Is it going to be pool first for one, hatch first for one? Alright, there's the pool from Caleb, and looks like it's going to be a hatch first from Dan. So Dan is going to get a very slight advantage here in the early game, which is good. He could still be aggressive off the back of this, of course. There is always that possibility. And the good thing about this for Caleb is he can just kind of run his Overlord into his natural, into his main, and he can chill here for a long time, just checking out the gas, checking out the pool timing, checking the queen timing, like everything. He'll literally see everything he needs to know. Dan's Overlord will have a slightly shorter timer on him, as the pool is almost done. It's in the green now, so it means it's going to be finishing fairly shortly. He starts a queen up, and then bam, the queen pops out and shoves the Overlord away, because there's really nothing you can do, Overlord versus queen. Gas is coming down now for both players, as we can see. There's one gas for Dan and the other gas for Caleb, as we saw. Both players should be saturating that immediately. There we go. Boom, done. And Dan pokes in, confirms the natural hatchery, and says, alright, that's all I needed to see. That's all I really care about. And of course, as you can see, Caleb's Overlord has much more free reign. Even though the pool is about to finish, he still has some time where he can get in, scout the gas, scout the pool, before the queen pops out. So that's a little bit of a trick you can use. Even if you see a pool, if you see the hatchery wiggling, and you know it's a hatch first, it's not necessarily going to pop out as soon as it starts wiggling. You can kind of run your Overlord in a little bit further to check whatever you need to check, and then you can get out and still be relatively safe. Two queens here, of course, for Dan, because he did go for that hatchery first. He should be sending these first two Zerglings across the map. As we can see, he hasn't actually scouted anything in his opponent's main base. And, yep, there they go. They're off to the races. They're going to race each other there because, you know, they're Zerglings. That's what they do. They're fast. They like to race each other to see who can get there first. Fun fact. Zergling speed on the way here for both players. Will either player commit to more than two queens is the question, because if they do, that'll definitely lead them to a much more defensive style. There's one queen on the ramp for Caleb, so he wants to deny these two Zerglings. He's going to start a Baneling Nest down on his natural, which does tell me defense, and that's fantastic there for Caleb. He's able to stop his opponent from getting into his main base with a queen and two Zerglings. That's really, really nicely done there by Caleb. So it's kind of keeping Dan in the dark, and now Dan has to kind of decide, what am I going to do here? And he's actually moving both of his queens down, all the way down here to shove away this Overlord. And this is really weird, because I feel like he's going to be losing a lot of inject time, seeing as both of the inject larvae just popped, and these queens are going to be banking a lot of energy. So that's kind of an odd move, even though it does supply block his opponent quite heavily, and he's going to have to make sure he rebuilds a couple of Overlords, not just one. It's still kind of odd because he's losing production time, and all the time he just lost on that inject could have been a lot more drones a lot earlier. So it's just kind of a little bit interesting. Caleb went for an evolution chamber. It was, of course, going to go for that +1 carapace. If you see an evolution chamber this early in a ZVZ, you can always assume it's probably +1 carapace to help with Zerglings. Dan on the other side of the map, however, is going roaches. So he may have roaches out in time, as Caleb is mostly looking to do kind of a timing with his +1 carapace. And again, a really nice deny there from Caleb. I don't know if that was like legitimately intentionally microed that way, or if it was just kind of like luck of the pathing, where Dan's Zergling just kind of messed up and was like, I don't know what to do, and then he just kind of died. But Dan is going to send a handful of Lings now across the map to try to get some scouting in and perhaps a little bit of damage, but Caleb is already well prepared for this. Two queens on the ramp, and he's got these Banelings morphing as well, so he should be perfectly fine. As you can see, Caleb did go for 3 queens, so he is definitely much more defensive, and that was a fantastic Baneling hit there from Caleb, killing every single Zergling at once. And now he evac'd his natural, some drones off his natural just to be safe, to make sure he didn't take any damage, and now he's going to go ahead and pull them back there. So Dan, of course, is forced to sack an Overlord here. He really doesn't have a choice, because he needs to see what's going on. Did he see both evolution chambers? No, he saw one. So he may be expecting 1 armored Lings, but maybe not 1/1 Lings. And 1/1 Lings versus roaches, if they get a surround, are incredibly strong. And I've learned that from first-hand experience. They are so, so strong. So Dan really has to be careful here. That +1 carapace is not quite done. It's about 3/4 of the way, I would say, but Caleb's already getting slightly aggressive, and these roaches have potential as long as he doesn't let the Zerglings wrap around them. If the Zerglings wrap around those roaches, that's pretty much game over for them. He's going to go ahead and go for it now. Caleb does catch a queen. He's going to go ahead and go for the wraparound. He gets the full wraparound. Dan's Zerglings pop out of that natural hatchery to help out a little bit, and it looks like that will be more than enough to push this away, and a transfuse there from Dan on one of his roaches just to make sure that was that guy lived, and that was a nice baneling hit there on the way out for Caleb, so that's something he can feel pretty good about. And because Zerglings are fairly cheap, he's able to throw it on third base incredibly fast. However, this counterattack could end up being the death of him, as his +1 Zerglings, his Zerglings have +1 carapace, but not +1 attack, so they're still waiting for that, and these roaches crossing the map, again, are quite scary. However, Zerglings can tank a little bit more damage now with that +1 armor, and these 2 spines, as long as he fights alongside those 2 spines, he should be fine. So Dan going to go ahead and take his third base as well as 1 gas, not quite 2 gases, but he's going to take 1 for now. And Caleb's third is now done. So Caleb does have the economy advantage, and now these roaches out in the middle of the map are going to get killed by all these Zerglings. And just that +1 carapace is actually helping him out a lot. He's able to absorb slightly more hits from those roaches, and it's able to increase their survivability. And now he's going to look to go for another attack with this +1 finishing it. Good lord, I don't know what my mouse is doing there, but this +1 is going to go ahead and finish, and it's doing it again. Caleb is also going to go for Spire. This is the next logical step if you're going for 1/1 Lings. Obviously, you're spending a lot of money into those Zerglings, not a lot of gas into much anything else, so Spire is the next logical decision. You can really retain map control with these mutas. You can kill overlords, you can supply block them, you can go for big Ling counterattacks, and while they supply block, they can't really do much against it unless they want to send their entire standing army back. That's kind of why it's the standard transition. So, again, the third base for Caleb is not quite droned, and that was a great cancel there by Caleb on the third base of Dan. So now Dan is slightly set back in his roach production. Roaches are not too gas-heavy, but they are fairly mineral-heavy, especially if you're making a ton of them at once. And again, these 1/1 Lings may not look like much, but they pack quite a punch versus these roaches. A nice flank there from Caleb. That was excellent. And he's not going to be able to do too much because these roaches are unfortunately all grouped up, and he cannot get a full surround there. However, he does not quite have any upgrades either. His +1 attack is about done. He has a second evolution chamber, but he's just not using it, oddly enough, and Dan is now going to go for a baneling nest. But again, the +1 carapace makes it so Zerglings don't die in one hit to banelings. That's really nice. So Dan going to look to open up a new attack path by breaking down these rocks, and I do agree with this. However, the first 4 mutas are out on the way, so he will start clearing overlords, and actually, Caleb is going to run around this army, and this could actually be a big deal. He could actually force a cancel here. Could Dan on this third, actually a kill on the third base, excuse me, but Caleb's going to come back. Is he going to be able to respond in time? It looks like Dan being a little bit indecisive there will buy Caleb just enough time to be able to get all the way back here and defend this fairly easily, or at least push him away. Perhaps not defend it, but at least push him away for now. And these spines repositioning are going to make it even easier. The mutalisks are now out on the map, so now Dan has a big decision to make. Do I just go across the map and try to do as much damage? But now that's not even going to be a decision, because the 1/1 Lings are going to slaughter these roaches out in the middle of the map with a full surround. That is going to be all those roaches dead, and now Dan is just going to GG, and Caleb taking an incredibly decisive game there. That was... he made that look easy. Real easy. What I was going to say is what Dan could have done had those roaches not get surrounded. He had a decision. He could have went across the map and tried to do as much damage as he can before the mutalisks and the Zerglings picked off his roaches. But Caleb, with the 1/1 Lings, man, if you're building roaches and you see double evolution chamber, like, you have to know, I have to make sure I don't get surrounded. If I get surrounded, I'm pretty much dead. Like, 1/1 Lings are not something you mess with in ZVZ, especially with roaches. So that does tie everything up 3-3, bringing us to a game number 9, the final game. Whoever wins this next game will be the victor of the clan wars. So as we wait for the final game to be started, I will put on some music for you guys, and I hope to be back with you shortly.
Sorry I kept you waiting forever and a day, but now we're out here together with nothing standing in our way. Can you feel the attraction? Feel the attraction. Can you feel it between us? This energy's inside us like electricity. Feel the love running through like electricity. Feel the love running through like electricity. Like electricity. Taking over your body, it's flowing through your mind. This feeling's got me on fire. Don't ever leave it all behind. Can you feel the attraction? Feel the attraction. Can you feel it between us? This energy's inside us like electricity. Feel the love running through like electricity. Feel the love. Can you feel me? Ooh, can you feel me? In darkness when there's no more light that you can see, I'll take us back to times when lives were similar and times that all seemed easier. Don't be afraid, I'll be the one to guide you through this endless maze. Don't look so sad, your crying eyes won't dry. You gotta drive with both headlights so we can see the world and we'll run away together like come close to me. I'll whisper in your ear the things that we could be. I'll drown us in the purple drapes that you were clothed in. We can live like royalty. I'll sing to you like a radio that's held beneath your window. Don't look so sad, your crying eyes won't dry. You gotta drive with both headlights so we can see the world and we'll run away together like till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
Oh, I gotta turn my fan up. Too loud, fan. Alright. Here we go. We're getting into game number 7 here. Yet another ZVZ on Terraform. Caleb was really strong last game, to be completely honest. I'm kind of scared for OE Zerg. Right, here we go. Down here in the bottom right side of Terraform for rival, looking to bring it to match point, is the blue Zerg, Caleb Arrakis. And up here in the top left, playing for OE, looking to bring it to match point as well, it's the red Zerg, Trilobit. Both players asking if they are getting lag, so if the screen is stuttering, I will let you know if it is the stream or if it is like legitimate in-game lag. I mean, I'm expecting some spikes every now and then, but I guess we'll just have to see how this game progresses. So far there's no 10 pulls or anything like that, and you know, the way Caleb played the last game, he honestly made that win look so convincing. It was impressive because just like his decision making with his Zerglings and like when he got his surrounds and everything, he just made it look really, really convincing. So I am kind of looking forward to this game, to be honest, just to kind of see what style Caleb pulls. If he pulls the same style, then cool. I suppose predictability is kind of bad in this kind of scenario if the other player is watching. Like if the next player that plays, if Caleb wins, sees the same style, then he could perhaps maybe theorycraft a build to come up with it on the fly, which would be pretty cool. But if he plays a totally different style and he makes it look as easy as he did last game, that'll be pretty cool. So Trilobot has got a 15 pool on the way, Caleb's got a 15 hatch, so Caleb takes a slight advantage, and Caleb's actually playing extremely greedy this time around. He goes hatch, gas, pool. So if nobody knows what this is all about, the whole purpose of hatch, gas before pool is once this pool finishes, you should have enough gas for speed, or you should be like 4 gas away from it. It's like really, really close. So speed will start as soon as this pool finishes for Caleb, and Trilobot is totally going gasless right now, which is interesting and could actually end up hurting him a lot. If he continues to play gasless and plays that really heavy gasless into like all 4, maybe not all 4, but like 3 to 4 geysers into like big roaches into upgrades, it could hurt him, but there we see the gas, so it's not going to be anything like that. It's just a much later gas. He wants to make sure he stays mineral focused, he gets all the queens and the overlords that he needs. And he's got these first 2 Zerglings out on the map now as well, does Trilobot, so he's going to be able to scout Caleb and see exactly what's up. And as you can see, Caleb's got 100 gas in the bank down there, and he's going to be looking to start that Zergling speed as soon as he's got the minerals for it. So, and that's kind of, again, that's kind of what that's for. As soon as the pool finishes, boom, Zergling speed, you're good. So, 2 queens on the way here for Caleb, so he's, you know, again, last game, I'm pretty sure he committed to 3 queens that last game, so he took somewhat of a defensive stance, but he defended with the queens and then just kind of went all-out aggression with the Zergling, so if he does the same thing, it'll be kind of interesting. He still could easily go that route, like, he just puts down an evolution chamber, especially with that really early initial gas. He's getting a baneling nest yet as front because the gas just went down from 100 to 50. So I would like to see that baneling nest slightly more forward. So if there was an attack showing up, because I don't think the queen fits in here. It could though. I could be wrong, but generally what I like to do with the baneling nest is okay. So it does fit. So this is kind of like what I like to do is kind of make sure my queen is tucked away behind the baneling nest, so it's much harder for Zerglings to get a full wrap around. That's just personal preference. Trilobot is actually committing to 3 queens, so this tells me, especially with the spine crawler, it tells me he wants to play this very defensively. He doesn't want to make any mistakes. He just wants to chill out, macro, get up his army, and then go push. So that's kind of Trilobot's game plan here, is just play really defensive. And as I say that, he starts 12 Zerglings, so never mind. Generally, again, I'm going off of like my general player experience. Like when I generally see stuff like this, like baneling nest at the front, spine crawler at the front, more than 2 queens, it's usually pretty defensive. But he's gonna go ahead and say, "Nope, haha, caster, you're wrong. Get out my game," and he's gonna go ahead and go aggressive. So Caleb has second evolution chamber, so he is gonna go for the exact same build as last game, those really early 1/1 lings, and again, he made it look really convincing in the last game. If he could do the same thing this game, he should be fine, but Trilobot's putting on the aggression this time around, so he's going to have to make sure he morphs banelings, and so far there's no banelings being morphed, and he's cutting it real close. Trilobot's speed is just finished, and he's coming across the map, and he wants some of that Zerg blood, man. And again, there's no banelings, and this is going to be a really big problem. Caleb still doesn't know about it. He's starting 2 now, and he's not, okay, he is starting to make a bunch of Zerglings. I was afraid if he was going to make that a drone wave or not, but it is Zerglings, so he has a chance to be okay. He's going to move these drones up the ramp, looks like. Did he see it? He hasn't seen it. I think he might just be playing incredibly safe, unless, okay, he saw the floodlings outside the main base, and that was a fantastic baneling hit there for Caleb. It's a really good start. Oh no, but he makes a big mistake, and he may make another one as he's trying to target the banelings, and they're trying to zone the lings away, and he does get the banelings, so he's pretty much okay, but there's more Zerglings coming for Trilobot. He needs to make sure he blocks this ramp or gets in there with those queens. He can't really just kind of be lollygagging around with them. He's going to lose a ton of drones, and Trilobot, man, with an excellent baneling hit after the initial big baneling hit from Caleb, he goes ahead and responds with his own big baneling hit, and there's 28 Zerglings coming out now for Caleb, so he will be able to push this away, and Trilobot looks like he squeezed in a couple drones there, so this counterattack could be deadly, but he's got more Zerglings on the way, and he should be okay. But now with the +1 carapace here from Caleb, I think he should be more than okay. Again, and this is something Caleb did on the last game as well. He just kind of transferred drones into his main to make sure he had enough where if there was an attack to show up, he would be able to easily transfer down to the natural and resume mining at a pretty steady, sustainable rate. So he's got some banelings coming in now. Here does Caleb, and here's a big giant wall from Trilobot. And he's gonna fill the little gap of the queens. And this is gonna be pretty hard for Caleb to break. And I'd honestly be surprised if he all out committed here to this push. And he is gonna go ahead and commit. He's gonna go ahead and blow up that 1 evolution chamber and look to get back there. He actually doesn't even blow it up with the banelings, so he's still got all of his banelings. He's gonna crash into the morphing banelings, and that's fantastic for Caleb already. This is a fantastic start for him. And the one baneling does finish there for Trilobot, but he doesn't get the connection it's looking for. He kills the queen, and now he's ravaging the drone line of Trilobot. And there it is. Good game. Caleb takes it to match point, and again, man, those +1 carapace lings are so strong. I'm pretty sure there were even 1/1 there at the end of the game. 1/1 lings in ZVZ, man. Look, if you ever needed a build to play in ZVZ because you've been struggling and you need a different build, honestly, go back and watch these VODs and try to study Caleb's build because it's so strong. Like, if you can micro well, and you've got 1/1 lings, and you can control them well, and you can counterattack and everything, you're gonna win a majority of your ZVZs. Honestly, it's that strong of a build. I think it's that strong strictly because it's not something we see all the time. But honestly, like, if you're struggling in ZVZ, honestly, go back and watch this guy's build and try to copy it because it's really that good. Alright, so that does bring Rival Gaming to match point. So that means if Rival Gaming wins the next game, they do win. Again, it's a best of 9, not a best of 7. I always get them mixed up. Best of 9 is the first to 5 instead of first to 4. So that was definitely my mistake in the past couple games, saying it was match point. But it's definitely match point now for Rival Gaming. If Caleb wins this game, that's it. They take the clan war. So as we wait for the potential last game of this clan war, I'll go ahead and put on some music. And I hope this time that I'll be back with you soon.
create a song. I don't wanna miss a beat. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And we'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, and on we'll go.
I feel so alive. I've never felt this way before. It must be you and I. It's got me thinking about us more. It's these bright lights, they put me in a daze, and I can't stop but think about the way that you move around, up and down on that stage. It's your future vibes. Bright lights, they put me in a daze, and I can't stop but think about the way that you move around, up and down on that stage. It's your future vibes. Bright lights, they put me in a daze, and I can't stop but think about the way that you move around, up and down on that stage. It's your future vibes.
Alright. This is going to be game number 8 in this clan. We're here between Rival and Ordo Equitum. As you can see, it's going to be a ZVP on Coda. I'm fairly certain this is the first Protoss, if I remember correctly. I'm actually not entirely sure, but I'll go off the assumption it is. Alright, let's get in. Down here in the bottom right side of Coda, playing for Ordo Equitum, looking to tie things up and bring this to an ace match. It's the green Protoss player, Thunder. And up here in the top left, playing for Rival, looking to close things out, it's the red Zerg, Caleb Arakas. Alright, so Caleb has been fairly, I mean, he's been kind of middle of the road, to be completely honest with you, in the past couple ZVZs, but this is a ZVP, and, you know, it plays very differently. So immediately Thunder went for a pylon there on the low ground. So there's two options he has here. He can either go Forge first and look for a cannon rush if he feels like it'll be successful. His other choice is to go Nexus first into Forge, or he could go Nexus first into Gateway. So there's like 3 options a Protoss has early on if they put a pylon down on the low ground, and those are kind of his options. So we'll see what he goes for. And of course he's just going to scout right after the pylon just to make sure there's no 10 pool or 6 pool or any kind of crazy shenanigans like that, like Zergs will pull out every now and then. But we'll see what Caleb does here once he reaches 15 supply, whether he builds a hatchery or a spawning pool. Some Zergs will opt, like once they see the probe, just build a spawning pool just to be super safe, but Caleb's going to go ahead and opt for the hatchery instead, as he knows exactly where the probe is, and he knows, alright, I'm pretty sure I can get away with this, my minerals are good enough, and bam, there goes the hatchery. Now, Thunder, it's kind of past the supply, honestly, at this point, where he would want to build a Forge to go for a cannon rush. So as you can see, he's queuing up his probe to just straight go for the Nexus. There shouldn't be a Forge built, and yeah, okay, he's just going to put down the Nexus. If you want to put down the Forge, it's usually on 13 or 14 supply. He's looking to fake a cannon rush to try to force kind of a commitment here from Caleb, and I mean, Caleb does commit a little bit, but this is kind of like the safest option he could possibly go for. Caleb just doesn't want to die to anything like a cannon rush or anything, and again, this is all fake, and Caleb sees this now. He sees there's no Forge, this is the first pylon, so he knows it's a fake. He doesn't really have to commit if he doesn't want to, but he's going to go ahead and commit anyway, which I honestly feel is a mistake. I mean, this is 6 drones down here for a fake cannon rush. Like, that's not worth it at all. That's 6 drones that just lost all that mining time, and there goes a Forge now, but it's late enough that the pool should be done by the time this hits, and the Forge shouldn't be done that quick. And of course, Thunder's going to go ahead and create the wall at the top of his ramp. The next step for him is to go ahead and probably start his double gases on about 20 or 21 supply, usually is about when the Protosses will start their first 2 gases in their main base. And of course, Caleb can just chill over here and look at the Protoss base and be like, alright, I know exactly what's going on, I've got all the information I could ever want as a Zerg player, and Caleb's going to go ahead and just play a gasless style. So this kind of tells me he wants to go for a much quicker third base. Of course, seeing as the Protoss has expanded as fast as he has, you know, you kind of have to go for a third base, because Zerg has to be at least a base up at all points in the game. So the drone's already set and rallied there, and he's going to go ahead and start that as soon as he got the money, and there he goes. And of course, there are those 2 gases there in the main base here for Thunder. Let's see, he should be putting 3 in each, but I've seen some Protoss players just simply put 2 in there, because they don't want too much gas too early on. I mean, it's pretty much whatever you decide to do. So this probe is going to be forced away here by the Zerglings of Caleb, which is nice, because now Caleb kind of he's pretty much secured map control for himself. He's pretty much secured a nice scouting location, and looks like Thunder put all 3 in gas. So he does want to get a lot of gas here. I mean, it's slightly delayed when he put in that gas, so it's not too big of a deal. Had he started it right away, I think he may have had more gas than he does now. But he's going to go ahead and finish up the wall with his Zealot, which is perfectly fine. And Caleb, meanwhile, is still starting no gas, so he just wants to drone. He wants to squeeze out as many drones as he possibly can, and then he's going to go ahead and scout at about like 6:30, 7 minutes with this Overlord. He's going to see the Protoss tech, and depending on what he sees, he'll go ahead and react accordingly. So I like what Thunder did there, though. He knows that generally Zergs don't build a lot of Zerglings early game, so he built the Zealot to finish the wall, and then he just pushed it out anyway, and just took the Watchtower, which could have been a big risk, if there was like a random giant flood of lings, he could have just killed the zealot and then ran in there and got in here, and that kind of would have been a ton of probes dead, and that kind of would have been the end of the game almost. But there's a robotics facility now from Thunder, so we know Thunder's tech choice. It's not going to be Twilight, it's not going to be DTs, it's not going to be Oracles or anything like that. It's going to be a Robo, and again, there it is, about 7 minutes. Caleb's going to go in here, he's going to scout this, he's going to be like, alright, it's Robo, I know exactly what I'm up against. Caleb's got his double gases, he's going straight to Lair, and again, he's foregoing Ling speed, which honestly might seem like a weird decision, but to be honest, if you're playing gasless like this, and you know your opponent's going like Robo, and you know he's got like, he doesn't really have a lot of production, you can generally go roaches like this and be perfectly fine. And he's also going to add Burrow on as well, and I do like this because if it does turn into an all-in, those force fields won't be as useful as they normally are. And there's 3 more gateways coming down here for Thunder, but that only brings him up to 4. If he really wants to get hyper aggro, he's going to add 2 to 3 more, if not even 4 more. I've seen like 8 gates before. I mean, it's not completely uncommon. It's fairly rare, but it's not totally uncommon. So there's an Immortal on the way, and yeah, this looks like it's going to be a straight Immortal all in here from Thunder, and I mean, it's not a bad choice, you know? There's no Zergling speed, so Zerglings really aren't going to be that great versus this. And I mean, they wouldn't be that great versus it anyway, because there's a +1 attack on the way, which means Zealots 2-shot Zerglings. But it would allow the Zerglings to kind of run around the map and perform counterattacks. And yeah, it looks like it's going to be a straight 8-gate all-in. So he's probably going to go with like 2 to 3 Immortals, and we can see he's starting up proxy pylons, but look at Caleb, dude, he's got it. He's got it on point, man. He sees the pylon, he sees what's up, he's scouted the Robo, he hasn't scouted all the gateways, and unfortunately for him, he doesn't have any Overlords around here to actually fully scout this, so he's going to scout it as it's on his front doorstep. I mean, he sees the Warpins of Sentries, so if there was any doubt in his mind before, he certainly knows now. Seeing a Warpin of Sentries is super telling. You know they're trying to bank up force fields so they can go ahead and take the best fights they can. So this pylon is actually really well placed here by Thunder. Like, really, how can Caleb come and assault this? With ranged units? Well, he can, but then he kind of gets somewhat forced out. Like, he can't just run over there and kill it with Lings. And now he knows for sure. The Zergling definitely identifies 2 sentries being warped in, a Zealot and a Stalker. I mean, why would you be warping in over here? And he's got 1 Immortal, 2 Immortal lagging slightly behind, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal. And yep, there's that Warp Prism. I was pretty sure it was a Warp Prism. This Burrow's going to help him so much. He's trying to buy time for Tunneling Claws. He's making more and more roaches, and once the Tunneling Claws finishes up, this is going to be really good. But these are really nice force fields from Thunder, man, really locking them out. And these 2 Immortals are going to be doing so much damage, but there's no detection here for Thunder, so this is great for Caleb. Once the Tunneling Claws finishes, he's going to be able to tunnel under those force fields and make them essentially useless. He's going to be able to save so many of his roaches. He won't be as split up. But here comes that Warp Prism to provide almost instantaneous reinforcement. He gets 1 Immortal, though, and that's a really big step in closing this out. But as soon as I say that, a second one steps in, or rather a third one, taking that second one's place. And he goes ahead, and, I mean, he's already down to half health, but I mean, these Immortals, man, these guys are not messing around, especially with that +1 attack. They're doing so much damage, and it's just going to be pure Stalker Warpins from here on out. The third base is dead. This is pretty much what Thunder wants. I mean, he wants to pretty much end the game, but at this point, I don't know really what Caleb can do. He's down an upgrade. It's going to be pure Stalker Warpins. There's 2 Immortals. There's instantaneous reinforcements at his front door. He's got a Mothership Core for a recall, does Thunder. Thunder's also going to take a third base and say, alright, this is kind of a fake third. If it doesn't work, I have a third to fall back on, and he's got an Observer now as well. You know, this is the third where if this doesn't work, I've got a third, and it's perfectly fine. If this works, I just end the game, and it's not really that big of a commitment. Caleb, again, is going to try to burrow into the force fields, but that Observer there is providing so much vision, and these are great force fields. 1 Immortal gets picked off, but there's just not enough production here for Caleb. I don't think he's going to look to take the second Immortal, and there's the Warp Prism Micro, and GG Thunder. Really strongly executed 2-base all-in there with the third behind it, just to make sure, look, if it doesn't work, I'm not just going to completely die and just lose the game outright. That was really, really strong there by Thunder. So props to you, sir. And that does mean we're going to an ace match. Game number 9 will decide everything, and I'm fairly certain it's going to be a TVP, because I'm fairly certain I know who the rival player is. However, we will wait and see. And as per usual, as we wait and get the last game loaded up, I'll go ahead and put on some music for you guys, and I hope to be back with you shortly. Alright guys, here we go, the ace match. Game number 9 between Ordo, Equitum, and Rival. Game number 9, 4-4. Player who wins this takes it all. TVP, Cactus Valley. This is pretty exciting. Curious to see what both players have up their sleeves. Let's find out. Up here in the top right side of Cactus Valley, playing for Ordo Equitum, looking to take the clan war in their name. It's the blue Protoss player, Thunder. Up here in the top left, playing for Rival, looking to take the clan war under their banner. It is the green Terran player, Cuddle Bear. Alrighty, you're gonna have to wait and see which builds these players decide to take. Got a pylon coming down for Thunder, and perhaps a wall off here from Cuddle Bear. I'm very curious to see if that's gonna be the case, if there is gonna be a wall off. This map, you would look at it like it's not great for Blink, it's okay for Stargate. I mean, there's not a lot. Like, this is probably the only location. It would have been great if he spawned down here, but he kind of spawned up here, so I mean, this is kind of all the airspace you have to work with. There's not a lot, you know, so I don't think Stargate's going to be a great choice here for Thunder either, so I'm just curious to see kind of what tech path. If he just wants to play straight Robo, that's cool. We got a 12-12 coming out from Cuddle Bear, so of course it's going to be a much standard Reaper expand, and we got Thunder going for a 13 gateway. Gas should be coming down on either 14 or 15, perhaps even 16. I've seen some players taking on 16, so. Here comes the scout for Thunder. He's going to be able to scout Cuddle Bear in the first location he checks, which feels great as a player, and there's that double 16 gas. This feels fantastic as a player, being able to get in here and scout them right away. Boom, I know where they're at. Perfect. He may start to kind of be annoying on this Rax as well. Looks like Cuddle Bear is going to take the read on that and be like, alright, I know where you spawned, I'm going to come check what you got. And we'll see if you're playing super greedy or cheesy or however you're playing. And that's really nice around, however, mineral walking the probe out of there. If anybody doesn't know what mineral walking is, essentially when you take a worker and you right click it on a mineral patch, it will like essentially phase through any unit that's blocking it. So that's kind of a nice way to keep your scouting workers alive and stuff. It's just kind of mineral walking through units and stuff. Now this probe is going to come back to the base. Cuddle has scouted everything he's needed to see. He may even try eBay block here, which would be pretty cool. I'm not entirely sure if that's what he's looking for. It looks like Cuddle's actually looking for a quick factory with this 100 gas. So he's going to start a reactor, and then he's probably going to start a pretty quick factory. Or he could start a second Reaper as well. I don't know where this Reaper is going. I guess it's checking for proxies, because he doesn't really know where that probe went. He's kind of, you know, nervous. I mean, he's gotten in here with the SCV and scouted pretty much everything he's needed to see. And so with that, he's like, alright, I'm just going to scout around with this Reaper. I don't need to get in there and do any damage. I just need to make sure I'm not being proxied anywhere and that I'm perfectly safe. So, I mean, good decision making so far here by both players. Mothership Core first on the way for Thunder, and then into Stalker. The Mothership Core comes out much quicker than the Stalker, so we can shut down a Reaper much easier. There is that factory from Cuddle Bear, and there's a reactor as well. Command Center's on the way, Bunker's about to be on the way, and there's only one Stalker for Thunder. And at least one Stalker on the map, a second one on the way. He's probably going to go for the 3 Stalker opening. That's the most standard in Heart of the Swarm. Of course, in Legacy of the Void, it's pretty much adept openers. Pretty much every game. There's an engineering bay for Cuddle Bear just to be safe. You know, he knows when an Oracle would show up in his base. He knows when a Stargate would be put down. So he's just going to play it super safe. There's 2 Stalkers, not a third one, so he's most likely just going to be saving that gas for tech. He's got 200, 300 gas right now. Curious to see where all that gas is planning on going. SCV is going to get picked off right here in the middle of the map. That's pretty nice for Thunder. That's actually really good. This Reaper's still just checking around for proxy, so I mean he still has that Reaper in his back pocket, so it's not totally forfeit. Looks like a mine drop is going to be coming out here for Cuddle Bear. That bunker is getting somewhat low, but the SCV is able to repair it, and the Marines in the bunker are going to push it away. Again, it looks like a mine drop here from Cuddle Bear with the starport on the way. Once that starport finishes, there should be a medevac. There should also be a second mine produced, and then everything shall be good. Robotics and Twilight at the same time here for Thunder. That's kind of interesting. I don't know if I've ever really seen that, to be completely honest. It's generally Robo into whatever tech, and then into like Forge, and then into Twilight. It's generally not Robo and Twilight at the same time. But it's interesting. But this Reaper is going to get in here. He's going to see this. This is a great scout for Cuddlebear. He knows, oh, okay, it's Robo and Twilight. Of course, the Photon Overcharge is going to be popped just to make sure that Reaper does not get out. Second bunker coming down here for Cuddlebear. He just wants to be perfectly safe, wants to make sure he doesn't take any unnecessary damage. And there's that medevac on the way. Where's the Widow Mine? There's one. Where's the other one at? It's probably in his mineral line, just chilling, defending. Where is it? Oh no. Okay, it's underneath his Marines. That's why I couldn't see it. I was wondering what the heck it was. I was looking for it. And it's going to be a Dark Shrine here from Thunder. Okay, well now it makes more sense as to why he put them down both at the same time. He can make observers out of the robotics facility. He can even make a warp prism if he wishes to do DT drops, and he's got 2 more gateways on the way. However, this is fairly decent for Cuddlebear. This, however, is not. All these SCVs being idle is not good. He's got his rally all messed up, and he's got to make sure he fixes it, otherwise he's going to have problems later on. Here comes the mine drop. 2 mines? Yeah, actually just 1 mine and 6 Marines. So he's going to see the Dark Shrine, so he's going to be able to prepare for it. He's already got an engineering bay. He even gets the Observer with that. For those of you that are really curious as to how the Observer died, the Widow Mine does enough splash damage around the unit that hits it versus Protoss to kill the Observer straight out. And he's actually going to get a cancellation on the Dark Shrine. A kill, not even a cancellation, a kill on the Dark Shrine. He's going to get 1 Stalker. He's even going to get a 2nd Stalker for the price of that mine. That mine really didn't matter. It did its job. It got a probe and an Observer. This is a fantastic start already here for Cuddle, killing the Dark Shrine, getting 2 Stalkers, 3 Stalkers, maybe even a 4th Stalker. Photon Overcharge will clean it up, but that 4th Stalker dies, man. That's it. 2 Photon Overcharges forced out. And, I mean, this is great. I mean, the turrets are now kind of useless. I mean, they detect observers, so they're not totally useless, but this, again, this is a fantastic start from Cuddlebear. He's got stem and combat shields on the way. He's got 3 racks, probably looking to add a 3rd command center before anything else. There's Blink on the way, of course, for Thunder. That's the next logical step in Protoss progression, generally, is Blink Stalkers. They're just so good at chasing down medevacs and so good at setting up engagements if you're planning to play on Colossus and stuff like that. Overall, they're just really solid units. Thunder is... where are these probes going? I think he's going to look to get aggressive here. I mean, he knows how much damage he took, right? So I think he's going to look to get aggressive with these 2 probes moving onto the map. Like, why would you move 2 probes out on the map unless you were going to start to put pylons down? He hasn't started any that I can see. And there's no other tech coming from him, so this is kind of odd. There's a 3rd command center from Cuddlebear, so he's not going to play super aggressive. He's going to play greedy, he's going to kind of defend whatever comes at him, and then hope to take his 3rd. Yeah, alright, there's the first 2 proxy pylons coming down. I'm expecting more than just 3 gates. 3-gate blink is not fantastic. I feel like you need more gateways in order to do that, unless this is just going to be kind of light pressure into, if I do a bunch of damage, it's fantastic. If not, it's literally light pressure. It's not that much. But Cuddlebear, unfortunately, is going to move out, and this could catch him off guard. He's base. So that's at least something going for him. Stim pack is finished, so is combat shields. He's got 2 medevacs out, so they'll be able to heal through the stim packs. And meanwhile, his macro is continuing on at home. The first engagement, 1 medevac almost dies, 1 stalker almost dies. The mothership core, I'm pretty sure it has enough for photon overcharge. He doesn't want to pop it just yet until the Terran player commits. And Cuddlebear's going to run 3 Marines in to try to snipe probes. He's sniping 3 of them so far, the 3 on the gas. And these Stalkers are continuing to be warped in. Looks like there's 3 Zealots being warped in. Templar Archives is on the way. There's the Photon Overcharge. And Cuddlebear is unfortunately going to have to be forced back. The +1 attack is about halfway done for Cuddlebear as well. And these Templar, if he catches wind of this, he can start mine production. He's actually already starting mine production. Did he scan? Did he scan and see it? No, okay, he hasn't scanned and seen it yet. I think he may just be building mines just because he's very wary of this type of style going on. Especially seeing the Twilight and Robo. I guess it makes sense. He's going to scan for an observer. He doesn't find it. There's the observer. It's watching all of his movements. And he has this watchtower here with this probe. So, 3rd command center is done. 2 more barracks on the way now for Cuddlebear, and mines, again, are starting to be produced. +1 is almost done. However, these medevacs are pretty low on energy, so they can't really do too much healing, so every stim is pretty harmful to Cuddlebear. However, there goes 1 Stalker. He's starting to blink back now, is Thunder, so he should with good blink micro, be able to save most of these stalkers. But the mothership core dies. There's no more photon overcharge, no more recall, no time warp. He's going to go for the immortal, not going to get it. Loses the medevac with the units. And overall, let's go ahead and check the units lost. So far, Cuddlebear has been more efficient. He needs to find this other proxy pylon. He found this one down here, which is fantastic for him, but he needs to find this other one, because this other one could end up biting him later on, especially because this is generally the third Terrans will take. So Zealot Warpins, you know, DT Warpins, if he decides to go that path, can definitely help. Looks like there was a mine drop here in the main base. I do apologize for missing that. But, you know, he forces a lot of probes off, and he's going to go ahead and run out of natural. He's going to try to kill the Nexus, but I don't think it's going to work. The mines are going to kill all the Zealots, doesn't quite kill the Observer, and all these units are super overstimmed, so they're not going to be able to do too much, and they're going to all die. And looks like everything here is going to die for Cuddlebear, so he's actually starting to bleed units, which honestly isn't the best. He scanned, I think, an Observer. I don't know where he scanned. He scanned somewhere. I'd imagine it was an Observer. But Storm is about 3/4 of the way done now, so that's kind of bad. However, Cuddlebear with his third base secured is very far ahead in terms of economy. Workers are 55 to 52, so he's actually only ahead 3 workers. But again, with this third base, he's going to be feeling good. He's got a Ghost Academy on the way to try to deal with those Templar and to EMP those Immortals and those Archons and those Zealots that are inevitable to show up. And he's remade a mothership core, did Thunder. Does he even have charge? No, he doesn't have charge, so those Zealots are not going to be nearly as strong as they could be if he had charge. And unfortunately, he just used a little bit of gas here on those High Templars, so he's got to wait a little bit longer to get that charge upgrade. Cuddlebear is going to continue to push. There's a drop here in the main base of mines. How much is he going to get is the big question. He's going to get a couple. Alright, that wasn't bad. So far, there's been 21 workers killed by Cuddle, and Cuddle's going to run in here now. He realizes the entire army's over there. He's going to try to run in here, snipe the natural. He's going to try to see what he can do. His +1 attack is done. He should be able to get this before Thunder can respond. He does get the Nexus. If he finds the third base, that'll be even better for him. And he is going to go down here. He's going to scan it. He's going to find it. He's going to kill this third base. And this is going to force Thunder to do something. He's got no charge on his Zealots, though. And that's the biggest problem. With no charge on his Zealots, the Zealots are going to be easily kited back over and over and over again. And it's going to be super, super hard. Oh no, the army on move command though for Cuddlebear in the Storm. Oh my god. Okay, that's actually really, really good for Thunder. He kills all that army of Cuddlebear, and that's really good. He doesn't get the medevacs. However, reducing the standing army of Cuddlebear, I think, is really good because it shuts down. It doesn't really shut him down, but it slows his aggressive pushing that he's been favoring in this game. So far, no extra gas on his third base. It's not really necessary as Terran. You're not spending a ton of gas all the time. 2-2's on the way. A couple Ghosts are on the way. I'm curious if he's going to SCV pull in. Here come these Zealot Warpins at this proxy pylon, and this is what I was worried about for Cuddlebear. He scans the army, he sees it, but he doesn't see the Zealots. And he's going to come in. He's going to come in from this direction. Cuddle's setting up bunkers and a missile turret here, but that's not the angle that Thunder's coming from. Thunder's going to all do this while trying to resecure his natural and perhaps secure a third base. Okay, he's going to push through the front. This is actually pretty good for Cuddlebear. This is his strongest. This is his biggest defensive position. If Thunder continues to push through here, it will be great for Cuddle, but he won't. And now Cuddle sees it. He's just going to evac his third. He's going to say, I don't want to mess with this. I'm going to take the high ground. I'm just going to chill here, and I'm going to wait for you to come at me, and I'm going to make a big giant. I'm going to wait for you to make a mistake, and okay, he's going to load up 3 medevacs, and he's going to go for it. He's got a couple Ghosts in there. He's got some mines. He's got 1 Ghost here. He's continuing to make Ghosts. He scans the army, and now he's... Ooh, nice EMPs there from Cuddlebear. Gets the entire army, all the shields off the Immortals, all the shields off the Zealots, all EMPs, all the energy off the High Templar, and there's the triple medevac drop into Thunder's main base. Cuddle should be able to target the Nexus and kill it if he wanted to, and there it is. GG, Cuddlebear. Nicely played. And with Cuddlebear winning that game, that gives Rival the Clan War. That's it. That's the end of the Clan War, man. 5-4, GG, Rival wins. Well played there in the end by Cuddlebear. That was really good. That mine drop, just that early mine drop, I think, honestly, is what really propelled Cuddlebear ahead in that game. He killed some probes. He killed like 2 or 3 stalkers. He did a lot of damage. Again, well played by both parties. We saw really, really good games tonight, honestly. Really, like, good ZVZs. Like, if you're curious about ZVZ, honestly, go back and watch some of those ZVZs. They were really, really good. Try to steal their builds. That will do it for the cast. I'm debating on whether I want to stream my Archon mode games or not, because I could. I'm not entirely sure, but I will go ahead and update the stream title anyway, just to let people who are coming in here, if they are, to let them know the clan war is over. So, thank you guys so much for watching. That is it for me, for the casting anyway. And if you liked the cast, you can go ahead and hit the follow button. Again, it's not necessary. If you really don't feel like it, you don't have to. But if you want to catch maybe some of my latter games, or maybe some more casting if I start doing this again, that's probably the best way to do it. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys